Before we get started, I'm going to ask everyone, if you will, say a special prayer tonight for Ann Stewart, the wife of former Commissioner Mike Stewart, and their family. Just keep them in your prayers. They're going through a very difficult time right now. Just like everybody to love on them and lift them up in prayer, please. Please join me for an invocation. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We just thank you for the time that we can come together and serve our community, serve our county. We just ask you to just be present with us tonight. Just guide us, guide our hearts, guide our minds. We thank you for each of the people that have joined us here and those that are watching us at home. May we all just work together for the benefit of our community. In your holy name we pray. You join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. Anyone have any changes to the agenda?
I'd like to request that the Alzheimer presentation being moved to after the FDOT presentation.
Okay.
And I intend to pull item 17 off the consent.
And I also have an add-on presentation with the Coalition of Youth. Do you want yours to be after that as well? Okay. And I'm sorry, what was the second?
Just the consent agenda item 17.
17 you're going to pull for discussion?
Yes.
I'll move approval with those changes.
Any others? Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Now we're going to move directly into citizens to be heard. And if you want to speak at the first citizens to be heard, now's your opportunity. You will have an additional opportunity at the end, one or the other. We're going to start out with Mr. James Hennessy.
Are we ready?
Yes, sir.
Hi, James Hennessy, Crawfordville, Florida. Well, I wanted to comment on a letter Commissioner Thomas wrote to the Wakulla News, and I think it demonstrates that Commissioner Thomas has a strange notion of what the truth is. In Commissioner Thomas's latest attempt to confuse voters about the wetlands issue, he demonstrates a strange notion of the truth by claiming that voting yes on the referendum will be, quotes, creating a king of Wakulla. And he and some of the other wetland protection opponents no doubt have had a hand in the deliberately misleading signs which are outside proclaiming that voting no on the referendum would be protecting the wetlands. That is sort of like saying you can prevent cancer by smoking. The overriding issue is that Mr. Thomas is out of touch with the principles of democracy and the referendum process. He seems to forget that 30% of the registered voters in this county endorsed putting the issue on the ballot, which is equal to the number of all who voted in the recent primary. This is not a small group. Further, if voters decide to endorse the measure in November, despite all the money and misinformation being used to defeat it, it means that they understand that the importance of wetlands in our county and truly want to protect them. This is the people of Wakulla speaking, not a king. The referendum process is an extremely difficult hurdle in this county with an unusual 30% requirement to even get the measure on the ballot. It would be crazy if the citizens' wishes could be easily overturned. This is why the county charter requires that any measure endorsed by the voters in this manner not be amended or overturned for 2 years. This is not an action of a king. This is the charter that the people democratically voted to endorse. Of course, the commissioners who voted to repeal our local ordinance and their supporters were never troubled by this reality until recently, when it seems to have finally dawned upon them that the referendum may actually pass. The fact that it will take all 5 commissioners or another referendum to amend or change the ordinance if it passes is a good thing. The people's verdict should not be easy to overturn, especially on an issue so vital to the identity, economy, and appeal of our county. Remember that this issue was created by a commission that continually ignored citizen input. If Mr. Thomas doesn't like the outcome and truly believes in his truth, he is always free to initiate his own referendum beginning November 5th. Unfortunately, what we seem to have in this county and increasingly in this country is an oligarchy. That means a small group of people who, through money and influence, wield inordinate influence in our politics, economy, culture, and they undermine our democratic process. One only needs to witness the recent selection of Senator Thrasher as FSU's president. Final statement, the good news is Wakulla County can take back some local control of our county's future by voting yes on referendum A, and we can enhance that future and have a commission more responsive to citizens if we change its composition by
Thank you,
electing
Mr.
Bill
Anderson.
Anderson
Ms.
and
Anderson,
Taylor
I've
Phillips.
given you a little bit of latitude there. Thank you, sir, for your comments. Appreciate them very much. Next, we have Ms. Sylvonia Banks. Sylvonia?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm going to waive my approach or comment until after I hear what you're going to say in reference to the closing of the Magnolia Gardens roads.
If I can, you're able to speak on that as well. You can speak on every agenda item.
Okay.
And so I'd recommend that you go ahead and fill out a speaker card on that.
I did.
Very good.
Okay.
So does she want to speak at the
You can-
second time?
I want to speak at the second time, yes.
Okay.
I want to see what you all
I'll
have to
suspect.
say in reference to that.
Okay. wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Garland Burdette.
Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Garland Burdette, and I live in Crawfordville. I'm glad I got to listen to the young man talk about why we need the wetlands amendment. Unfortunately, I really don't believe that we need it, and I think that if anybody's twisting the things around, it probably is the wetlands people. A duplication, it's going to cost us money. State of Florida, I love this state, but you know, I could own a house the same size in Georgia. My property taxes would be probably a third. My homeowner's insurance would be a third. Then we want to give other things that are just going to impede us to have our freedoms in our properties. This seems like to me that we're overrun with government with everything we do. It's getting where that you really can't even be sarcastic and make a comment that you're going to be doing this or that, and then next thing you know it's going to be illegal, because in this day and age it really is. When I was a kid, I remember my father telling me about Khrushchev telling Kennedy, pointing his finger at him, being really nasty to President Kennedy. He says, we'll take this country and never fire a shot. I think those shots are being fired today, but we're shooting ourselves. In all honesty, we have jobs that we could have in this country if we would use our coal and our gas, but we'll go and spend our money and buy fuel from the Saudis and the Kuwaitis and people that hates our guts when we could put thousands and millions of people to work in this country. The top of our government is corrupt, and now we're wanting to make the bottom. We're shortening the gap of where us normal citizens live, because we don't have any representation on the top from the president down, and then we're trying to influence this delegation, this control over us from the bottom. Us as citizens have no rights, it seems like, and it seems like that they're just dwindling every day. You know, I know that everybody dreams of a clean environment, but you know, not all dreams are good. My father told me when he was 6 or 7 years old, he dreamed he was going over Niagara Falls in a barrel. He woke up and had a warm and fuzzy feeling, but it didn't take long that he'd figure out his bed was wet. Well, I think a lot of us are going to have that warm and fuzzy feeling if we vote in the wetlands referendum and then feel like that our bed is wet. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Burdette. Next, Mr. Bill Anderson.
Bill Anderson, Panacea, Florida. And for the record, I'm a candidate for the County Commission District 4. I have two quick subjects. I know that you had a reef restoration workshop scheduled for today, which was canceled. And I just wanted to call to your attention that Dr. Manning of Valdosta State, who made a presentation to you once before, has received his permits to work and test his materials in our waters. And so I hope that you'll have that workshop later and give him and the other people a chance to speak, because I think that could be very good for our economy. The second point is one of our citizens wrote a letter to the FDOT, Secretary Barfield, regarding the intersection 31998. And I'd just like to read a few sentences from an email that she received back from him. He says, on September 24th, 2012, the Capital Region Transportation Planning Agency, the local intergovernmental transportation planning board consisting of local governmental officials, adopted a transportation priority project list for fiscal year 2014-2018 for the region. The intersection of US 98 and US 319 Crawfordville Road was the #1 priority in terms of intersection improvement. I find it kind of ironic that on your agenda tonight is item 13D. You have to discuss with the FDOT landscaping for that intersection when you never considered what priority that intersection should be before this board, whether it was safe for our citizens. You never held a public meeting whatsoever to discuss it, and yet now that it's a reality, or going to be, you're willing to discuss the landscaping at it. That seems to me you're focusing on the wrong thing. There's a major priority and you're focusing on landscaping. Also in that letter, to clear up some confusion in the past, who's going to pay the utilities at that intersection? He makes it clear that they cannot waive any state requirements. The county's going to pay to relocate the utilities at that intersection. $420,000 unbudgeted dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Next speaker, Mr. John Shuff.
Thank you for the opportunity to connect with the citizens of our county. Yes for wetlands certainly sounds good. We're all for preserving our significant wetlands, as they are one of the linchpins of our economic growth. Though in the details lies deception. When we look at the recent Yes for A mail-out, we see a beautiful picture of wetlands that we assume we are wanting to protect. But I venture to say that that is a photograph of St. Mark's National Wildlife Refuge, owned and protected by the federal government, and has nothing to do with the issue at hand. Again, a subtle deception. In fact, 85% of our coastline is already owned and protected by the refuge, not part of this discussion, though the Yes folks want you to think that it is. In fact, the state and federal government own, regulate, and protect about 74% of our county through the Apalachicola National Forest, the refuge, and Wakulla Springs State Park. Another interesting fact to understand involves our rivers. Florida has designated 41 of their rivers as outstanding Florida waterways. We are blessed with 3 of those, along with the protective regulations that accompany this designation. Our 4th river, the Sopchoppy, runs almost exclusively through the National Forest and therefore is thusly protected. The old wetlands ordinance never had, nor will it ever need to have, any jurisdiction over any of these areas or that 74% of the county that we just referred to. So what's going on with the remaining small but significant 26% of our county where we the people live? Don't we still have a few more wetlands that we need to protect? And we do. Our comprehensive plan and policy 13.1 requires 100 to 300 foot buffers around all of our springs, our spring runs, our sinkholes, and other karst features that have a connection to the aquifer. Our commissioners were wise to leave this policy in our comprehensive plan, but that's still not all. Our land development code in section 16-3 requires a 50-foot buffer from bodies of water defined as a natural lake, river, stream, brook, man-made or natural canal, bay, estuary, gulf, ocean, or sea. And that's pretty inclusive. When presented with all these true facts, you may think that that is enough, but wait, there's still more. In 2010, the state began regulating isolated wetlands also, but within the limits of the United States Constitution and its Amendment Number 5. An important fact that the Yes folks don't seem to understand yet. We have enough regulations to protect Wakulla for far into the future, and enough is enough. In closing, I'd like to refer back again to the recent mail-out by the Yes folks and the statement about lowering your flood insurance. Again, it sounds good, but let's look again. With broad new changes to the FEMA flood insurance maps, a new economic law has descended upon our county. When it becomes too expensive to afford flood insurance, people will look elsewhere to live, and developers will have to follow them. Let the feds fight the legal battles over property devaluations. We do not need nor can we afford this battle, and bringing back the wetlands ordinance puts us right in the middle of the line of fire.
Thank you.
Please vote no on referendum A. Thank you.
Mr. Shaw. Mr. Steve Cushman.
Steve Cushman. I live in Panacea, also have a business in Crawfordville. I want to take a moment to ask all of y'all, is there any one of you on this board that feels the necessity of allowing a single commissioner to have total control over this board? There is a complete reasoning. Is there a complete reasoning why an ordinance was even drafted to allow such a vote, the likes of has never been held by a county in this state? Our own Constitution can be amended by a 2/3 vote. So why are we being pushed by a small group of this community to allow a 5-0 vote requirement on legislation? In my time in this county, I have not witnessed a unanimous vote on any subject that is as controversial as the wetlands. This ordinance has divided the soul of this county and turned friends to enemies and pitted neighbor against neighbor. Looking back, it has brought embarrassment to this county, this board, and many of our citizens on both sides have been branded by the sword it has driven into our pride. We have all but become a lost paradise. While it may only be a theory, I suggest every citizen in this county take a moment to reflect who will sweep in and claim our lost paradise. Will it be the very people of this long-enduring county, or the rich clan who has moved in to claim it through regulation? I work in the bay surrounded by these wetlands almost daily. I no more want to see them degraded than the next person. The very group pushing for wetlands ordinance also makes arguments over people having personal agendas. This is simply not true in this case. Of all the people who have stake in the wetlands protections, I have many. The aquaculture industry, which I have been working for over 2 years to establish, the dive shop I am part owner in that promotes tourism to recreate in the many springs and sinks we have. I even spearfish myself in those bays. So I have a little more at stake than the average citizen. Yes, I oppose the referendum on that sole fact. It will lock the county into an ordinance which will be near impossible to amend without calling another special election. A wise and prudent person would not allow this county to be backed into a corner we cannot get out of. A wise man would vote no and give the freedom to draft a workable ordinance should the need arise. The wetland supporter come at you with the science, but daily I see them ask in opposition about the science that seems to not exist in their own words. What if the science proves we need more protection this ordinance gives tomorrow? Do you really think we can get that vote to amend? What if, there are just enough facts to support it and too many facts proving it will lock us into regulation we can't afford to amend? Too many facts pointing to higher taxes to be paid by all, too much risk of more lawsuits. We are struggling in this county and hard. We simply can't afford this ordinance. I encourage all citizens to get out and vote, and we will develop a plan and allow our follow our needs to regain our economic prosperity.
Thank you, Mr. Cushman. Next, Miss Mary Roberts. No, I'm sorry. Larry Roberts. Pardon me, sir. I should be wearing these.
Well, that's me, I guess. Sop Choppy. Two of the gentlemen that preceded me, Mr. Burdette and Mr. Cushman, I believe alluded to this mythical lawsuits that we would have if we adopted this ordinance. The ordinance was in force for 3 years, I believe. There was never an issue brought against it, and I'm sure there would not be had it continued. There's always a possibility. I'm not saying it will never happen. However, I think the lawsuit against such ordinance would fail. It really is not all that much different from all the ordinances we have. We got ordinance for everything right now: signs, litter, noise, you name it. And we're not in court for any of those. Haven't been. That cost, the gentleman who mentioned the cost may have been referring to a lawsuit that we did have some time back. However, contrary to what you folks up there like to say, that had no connection to this wetlands ordinance. That was an entirely different situation. I too made note of the protect wetlands, keep property rights, and vote no on this thing. It amazes me that anybody could believe that this some way would hurt the wetlands to adopt the wetlands ordinance. And the property rights issue. What are these issues? They are mentioned on several occasions, but nobody seems to know what is this mythical property right. The only property right that I have seen in my lifetime that was rock solid was the right to exclude others. And of course this wetlands ordinance does not go into that at all. I guess that's about it. Thank you.
Hey, we got to do it at last. Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Mr. Herring, we're going to have to move yours to the last one, the last citizens to be heard. Okay. All right. Next, we'll have Mr. Bob Danzy.
Hey, hello. My name's Bob Danzy, and I live at Shell Point. I appreciate you letting me speak. One thing I want to say first is I think the people here and at home should really listen when we talk about a 5-0 vote. That's important. It's important because, like the gentleman said before, even the Constitution of the United States of America can be changed with less than that. Our country was built on a democracy, and that the majority rules, and this is certainly not that. So I would hope you would oppose it on that alone. Now, to get to what I really want to talk about is the lawsuits. Lawsuits are inevitable. The gentleman that just spoke talked about them being a mythical thing. There's been 3 of them, 3 lawsuits that's lost. Didn't even make it to court. I tell you where they made it. They made it to the negotiation room where the county was basically begging its way out. Our own attorney has given us a report back that hundreds of thousands of dollars was spent. Our insurance company had to negotiate and give hundreds of more thousands of dollars, upwards of $600,000-$700,000 spent on this. Now, the important part of me bringing that back up is that if the citizens vote this back on theirself, then our insurance company is not going to represent the county and protect the county, because it'll be a self-inflicted wound, if you may. Our county will have to come up with other ways to pay for lawsuits that may be lost in the future. It inevitably will be lost. We'll either have to buy the land back, or we'll have to negotiate a settlement. Now, we're going to have a Mr. County Administrator over here looking at 5 commissioners saying, you know, we're about $2 million in the hole here. Where are we going to get it from? Well, I'm going to take a chance at where we're going to get some of it from. You know that public service tax that we have? It's 7% now. Mr. Kessler wanted to reduce it earlier this year to 6%. Mr. Moore said, well, I'll do that if you'll go to 5%, but he wouldn't do that. Said that's too much of a cut. With that being said, that public service tax that they're trying to cut is going to go to maybe 14% when you have to come up with a couple of $1 million. Property taxes possibly can go up. There's lots of ways to go get money. And I will assure you, they're going to have to go get money, because these suits will have to be dealt with and settled. There's already a 50-foot setback along the coastline of a mean high water line. You have to be 50 foot off of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Danzy. Our last speaker, Mr. Tim Caldwell.
Yeah, Tim Caldwell, Panacea. I'd like to talk a little bit about the hypocrisy with the so-called candidates, these hand-picked candidates from good old Howard Kessler here to run against Jerry Moore. The first candidate didn't do so well, so now we have another candidate. There was a recent circulated memo in on Facebook this weekend from a lady named Phyllis Posey, who says, you know, a candidate for commissioner comes up to her door, bangs on her door, asking for a vote, and proceeds to badmouth Mr. Moore. Proceeds to question his ethics, his judgment, and then the same guy comes up here and offers these disclaimers. I've been coming to these meetings for a couple months now, and for month after week after week, month after month, this woman Peck gets up here, and she always badmouths Jerry Moore, always constantly, demeaning him, which is ridiculous. He's one of the best commissioners I've ever met. But here she up here badmouthing her, and then this goof comes up here with his disclaimer about he's running for office, but he doesn't offer a disclaimer that he's shacking up with the same woman for month after month.
I wouldn't let it get...
So I'm kind of like real disgusted with the ethics and the hypocrisy that goes on with these candidates. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir. That's the end of our speakers, citizens to be heard. If you'd like to speak and you did not speak in the first group, please fill out a card and you can speak at the end of the meeting. We're going to move into the public hearing section. County Administrator?
Yes. This request board approval to conduct a public hearing and consider an ordinance amending section 5-33 of the Wakulla County Land Development Code, reducing the minimum building group length requirement of the RTH Townhouse Residential Zoning District Regulations.
So moved.
I need to clarify, the agenda item is not clear, but this item will not be voted on tonight. It has to go to a second public hearing on October 20th.
You're going to vote on opening.
You're opening the public hearing up.
So moved again.
We have a first. Do we have a second?
Open the public hearing.
Have a first and a second. Any
On.
citizens? Any discussion from the board? And again, all we're doing is
Allowing a 2-unit townhouse instead of having to do a 3-unit townhouse.
That's right. This is the first of two public
And
hearings.
I think that we all agreed that that was where we want to go with this.
Right, very good. Any other discussion? Let's call for the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 4-0.
All right.
Next, we're going to go into the awards and presentation section. We're going to start with a presentation from NAMI, Ms. Rose Healy and Janice Aiken.
Thank you. Rose is not feeling well tonight, so it's just me.
Give her our best.
So, okay, and you have a presentation that's on the screen there in front of you, a copy of that. So, NAMI, N-A-M-I, I don't know how many people know what that means or have seen that on the road. We have an office up just north of Lindy's Fried Chicken. So I'm going to hopefully educate you as to what NAMI is and bring it into your life so you can help us out. NAMI is a membership comprised of people with serious and persistent mental illnesses, as well as their parents, their children, spouses, siblings, their neighbors, their friends. And our mission is to improve their life. The National Institute of Health estimates that 1 in every 4 families is affected by mental illness. So if we look around this room, that means that 1 in 4 of us have either in the past been affected by mental illness, are currently being affected by that, or will be affected by it in the future. Okay, we believe that people with mental illness can work, they can recover, they can get better, they can get medication, they can get help and training and be a part of our society. This is, I'm supposed to learn how to do this too. Where is the, there it is. Sorry about that. This is Mental Illness Awareness Week, so that's what the green ribbons are, and it is time to take action. There's over 1,000 different affiliates across the United States, and there's 34 in Florida, so Wakulla is very, very lucky to have one, and there's one in Tallahassee too. Collier County is an excellent, they've got a lot of support. They're a little bit further in the future from us because they've been doing it longer. We're going to watch a movie that they produced that we hope to be liked one day.
Left the darkness, light mental illness issues with since he was 10 years old. Chronic paranoid schizophrenia, a commonly with bizarre hallucinations. I have OCD.
I have bipolar schizophrenia. I have obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, panic attacks, and depression.
Well, my mother was schizophrenic, and we found that out when I was 10 years old. I'm bipolar. My daughter is bipolar. My granddaughter is bipolar. And we're going to have to wait and see whether or not my great-granddaughter is bipolar.
Mental illness can affect persons of any age, race, religion,
or socioeconomic status.
Mental illness is a medical condition.
It disrupts a person's thinking, feeling, mood, ability to relate to others, and daily functioning. Mental illness can diminish capacity for coping with the ordinary demands of life. The Salem Center is the drop-in center. I come 3 times a week. It's a place to bring a lot of people with mental illness and get to know people and get you out yourself. And we do things that normal people do, only we have mental illness. And Salem gives us a chance to be ourselves and to have fun.
I believe my son would be incarcerated in jail a long period of time. One doctor would say he was bipolar, one doctor would say he had Tourette's. Nobody could really identify consistently what we were dealing with. When we met Catherine, it all got assembled into a team, and the team moved forward, and now we have a direction.
The biggest fear when you're going through this is that you are alone and you have nowhere to turn or how to navigate through any of the systems that are out there, you know, Medicaid and Social Security, disability. I wouldn't know any other resources. There's no other place to really turn to find out those questions unless you find somebody that's been there, done that, and those are difficult because people don't talk about their mental illness situations with their families.
NAMI of Collier County is dedicated to improving the quality of life
of the 1 in 4 families affected by serious and persistent mental illness.
Through education, support, and advocacy.
NAMI serves over 14,000 people a year.
At no charge to them or their families.
Providing programs that support mental wellness.
It's good to see the people recover. There's always hope for recovery because you need to remember that their disorder is not their personality.
The NAMI navigator came with me to school. My son was hearing voices at school while he was in class, all types of voices. It was a scary thing that just happened, and they were there with me 24/7. They even called to see how I'm doing, and I think that was a blessing. They talk to me like they make me feel good to talk to somebody.
Collier Health is all about preventive care for children as young as 2 years old in regards to mental health. Early prevention and intervention is very important because if I hadn't been properly diagnosed, I wouldn't be pondering going to college at maybe Miami or Harvard and trying to go for a pre-med track.
Crisis intervention team training has allowed us to see more options, see a little further into what might be going on with that call that we're called to, the person we're dealing with.
We are getting to the point that our community is aware that we have trained staff. They actually look to identify those trained staff if they're in the field.
Collier County 911.
I need some help with my son who's been drinking. His office there. I would like you to send a CIT trained officer if you can.
You want a CIT trained officer, correct?
Yes. Well, the training teaches them how to calm, assess, and facilitate, and I think they take that into their training, and they've realized that there's a different approach. The good news about mental illness is that recovery is possible.
Mental illness is treatable.
There's a stigma with mental illness, and when people have to reach out for help, particularly professionals. So NAMI has been there to guide individuals through the process with the mental assistance, the mental health, the financial aid, everything. So NAMI has been the answer.
There's a difference between being very, very depressed and when you literally lose all hope. And that's what I did. I lost all hope.
One of the biggest things for me that NAMI has done is educate me about Eddie's illness. When he was trying to climb up out of a deep depression, he used me as the ladder. You begin to feel like you're the one that's doing something wrong, that you're the one that's sick.
NAMI is an organization that's based on changing minds, changing lives, and I am proof of that.
1 in 4 families are affected by mental illness. Who do you know?
Who do you know?
Who do you know? Who do you know?
Who do you know? Who do you know?
So, thank you. So who do y'all know? Probably know somebody if you think about it. And I probably don't have much time left, so I'm going to talk fast. So what's going on in Wakulla County? In 2012, we had 173 Baker Acts. I wish I had time to explain what that is. If you don't know, Google Baker Act. In 2013, we had a total of 145. It went down. Right now, in this county, January through August, we are up to 119. We are on track to exceed 2 years ago. Suicides, we had 5 in 12. We had 4, that's the purple, the 4 in 13. And we have already had 5 in the first 7 months. That's what's going on in our county. What can you do as commissioners? Well, you can become a NAMI member. You'll get notices, newsletters. You can learn about the NAMI classes so that when you talk to your constituents, you can tell them, listen, I know I can recommend something for you. They can help you. You can take a class so you can learn more. Endorse us, promote us, help us in the silence. You can make a financial donation. We have to raise money for everything that we do, all the books and the printing and the advertisements, and volunteer at our fundraisers. Oh, I forgot to do that. Okay, this is what I wanted to really talk to you about because it affects your budget. You wonder, how does this affect Wakulla County? Well, it affects your budget. Your employees, if they're absent, if they're not as productive, they're providing poor service to your citizens and to your businesses in this county. They may be given incorrect information at times. They may have more accidents on the job, or when they're driving, their mind is off, they're depressed, so your workers' comp and your automobile, just overall your insurance costs can go up. I guarantee you have employees that will come to work tomorrow that are depressed or very worried about a family member that's bipolar, or what am I going to do? And it's hard to work when you've got those worries. The increased stress on our teachers. A lot of the, on the chart, here you can see the ages that those bars represent. Age 13 to 14, we've already had 59 Baker Acts. Age 8 to 12, we've had 5, and we're only through August. The teachers have enough on their plates. We need to bring some help into our schools, and NAMI is actually going to start a class, I don't know, hopefully in January. It's Breaking the Silence, where we go into each of our schools and talk directly to the students. It's causing increased calls to the sheriff's office. Lieutenant Jones will tell you that a lot of the, or all of the sheriff's department has been trained in CIT training. And of course, you can imagine the cost is up to the jail cells, because a lot of people that are in jail are not criminals. They're just there because we don't know what else to do right now, and they get called to someone's home and end up taking them to the jail. Thank you.
Ms. Janice, thank you for that presentation. We see you and your team throughout the community. Please make sure they know that we recognize that and we appreciate what they do, and hopefully this will help bring awareness, and you'll have some more support.
Thank you so much, guys.
Next, Florida Department of Transportation, Miss April Williams.
Thank you, Commissioners. I didn't bring a presentation. I just have some pieces of information that I wanted to share with you. Kind of the department's changed direction on the environmental reevaluation. Originally, when we went under contract, we were going to clear the whole corridor, which, with the exception of the intersection realignment at 98, we started down there, and we're going to go all the way to the existing four-laning in Leon County. I feel fairly confident when you see the department's official work program be presented to you this spring in the public hearings. You'll see that the two segments north of Crawfordville to the Leon County line, which we refer to as the -7 and -8, the limits of those are from East Avon Road to Bloxham Cutoff, and then from Bloxham Cutoff to the Leon County line. We've recently been directed to focus our efforts on clearing the environmental document for those two segments so that they can advance. I also have identified most of the remaining segments that need to be designed and produced on 319 or on the department's APP list, which is our advanced production plans. What that means to you as those are a top priority for the department, and specifically for our district when we get some excess funds in, which is happening fairly common these days. Those are the projects that the money is allocated to first. So I wanted to let you know that the segments are coming, and honestly, when I took this project on, I really didn't think it would be rolling this quickly, but it is. The second thing I wanted to let you know is because we're focusing our efforts on the two segments north of Crawfordville, we're kind of postponing our coordination with Louis and his planning department on the typical section through Crawfordville. We haven't forgot about it. It hasn't dropped out of the study, but it's a little behind these other two projects, so we'll be coming back to the community for more discussions on what that typical section looks like, but I wanted to let you know that. Most of the input at the public meeting was for the 4-lane section. We feel that's how we kind of need to proceed. It's consistent with the town plan that we were given when we started the project, and now that SIS designation, that Strategic Intermodal Systems designation, the pursuit of that has been dropped by the department. We feel like we can work with the county very well in fitting a typical section that works for you guys and works for us and meets department standards. I know that the letter went out to Mr. Edwards, and 2 days later, Director Peters got direction from central office that we didn't have to worry about pursuing SIS designation for 319. So just poor timing on our part, but I wanted to let you guys know that no SIS designation. Expect to see segments of 319 when the work program comes out. And if you have any questions on the project, where we are.
Hopefully next meeting I get to see our TPA to vote to put us in the intermodal list.
Okay.
And the secretary said that should help us out too.
Well, we're already on your agenda for November. So if you have any other information you'd like for me to bring, if you'll just let me know, Commissioner Merritt, and we'll do that. Okay? All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Next, Sarah, will you be doing the presentation? I don't see Ms. Gale for the...
I'll be doing the one-stop. Ms. Janice is going to be doing operations management.
All right.
Putting on my other hat. Okay, so, get the right presentation. You have these two in front of you. Okay, folks, what we're talking about is Operation Santa of Wakulla, and this is our 5th year helping out the families in our county that to have a brighter Christmas. This year we have a new Santa's Workshop. It's down at the corner of Raywinkle and Highway 98. It's where the old Episcopal, it's a great church, was at. Okay, we need help from you guys and from you guys. October, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, families that need help can come apply. They actually come to the one-stop center, and this is working out so nice, and it's kind of like going to be good for Sarah to come up here and tell you what's going on there. But when they come in, we do an evaluate, or we take a what's that form called? An intake form where they tell us all about themselves. And that's really not Operation Santa, but we pass it on to the one-stop. And in our interviews for that family, we find out more, because it is amazing how much help is down here at the one-stop center, and they can help refer these families to. So we're really excited about that. But families need to apply in October, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at the one-stop center from 10 o'clock to 7. So please tell everybody you know. It's real easy to find information on the internet, OperationSantaWakulla.org. Real easy. OperationSantaWakulla.org. Okay. The next thing is we need folks to adopt families. So we would love for every county commissioner to adopt a family. Hint, hint. And we thank you last year for what you did do, because everybody got involved, and even I think the county offices gathered together, and yeah, you were involved in that. So we hope that y'all do that again. But we need Individual families to do it. We need businesses to do it, churches, civic clubs, neighborhoods, friends to get together. Use it as a teaching opportunity for your children. So, and of course, donations are always accepted, and volunteers are always welcome. And all that information is on our internet, on our page, and we have a Facebook page too. And we have boxes all over the county.
Good evening. I'm Sarah Dahl, the community coordinator at the One Stop Community Center. And in front of you, you have the October schedule and also what Operation Santa is doing based on the intakes. Due to those intakes, we are able to refer all the families over to 48 partners and our 5-ounce prevention partners, which are our grant. To date, we've been open 9 months, and we've helped over 355 families, 482 individuals. In the month of September alone, we had over 150 visitors at the Wakulla One Stop Community Center. The 5 partners we have are DOH, NAMI, Library, FIS, and Wakulla County Sheriff's Office. And the month of October is Anti-Bullying Awareness Month, so at the One Stop this month, we will be reaching the children and the public through Facebook and the website, working with the Sheriff's Office on their Monday programs for anti-bullying. So if you're aware of anything going on in the community or any child, please refer them to the One Stop for our Monday class. This is where we're really hoping to reach the youth and the individuals, and that's called Kids Choice. Also, our brochures have been printed, so each one of you have one of those, and they're out made to the public as well. But if anybody has any questions, please just send them to the One Stop Community Center. You can visit our Facebook or our website, and we will find them resources or find them help in any way that we can.
Sarah, can you tell us how many kids you have in the 21st Century Learning Center program?
They currently, I believe they had 150 enrolled. We had 140-ish today at the center, and they are going to try to work their numbers up to accept 200 children every day after school.
Cool. Wonderful. Thank you.
Good deal. Thanks,
Appreciate
Sarah.
all the hard work. Next, Dr. Kessler, Alzheimer's Support Services.
Yeah, it's actually not me, but thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's Sharon Fox. I had put that in as a placeholder, and it was confirmed after.
Thank you again. I was supposed to be here at 6, but rushed from work and didn't make it. I'm sorry. Thank you for the chance to say something.
Welcome, Ms. Fox.
I'm here to just represent the Alzheimer's Project that's serving Wakulla County. It originates in Tallahassee, is separate from the association. Association exists mostly for research and to reduce Alzheimer's nationally, and it's a big organization. Alzheimer's Project is here to serve and do a hands-on approach to helping people with Alzheimer's and their caregivers who also suffer just about as much. It's very 24/7 wearing. We give a lot of materials that comes from the Alzheimer's Project here in Wakulla County. They give little kits that include like the 38-hour day or 36-hour day or something that explains Alzheimer's and what that really is. And they also give a lot of materials like references and resources within the Big Bend area. They give training to volunteers here. We probably have at least 15 or 20 working every Monday at the respite care that we have for the Alzheimer's patients. These people who suffer from Alzheimer's come to Lake Ellen Baptist Church. They're housing it, not supporting it. And Pat Ashley has been the one behind this who has pushed for it and been very persistent and gotten Tallahassee to provide services to Wakulla County. So she and another lady, Mary McMahon, that works with Big Bend, usually take care of organizing this and are the leaders. Then there are lots and lots of volunteers. They feed them 2 meals a day. They do exercises. They have music therapy. They have pet therapy. They have activities and crafts. And they have all of these things for the clients so that their caregivers can have 1 day a week to go to Walmart or go to a doctor appointment or do something that they need to do without the Alzheimer's patient who is not able to go along, and they can't leave them at home alone. So that's basically a picture of what we do here. We also have 2 separate support groups for the caregivers. We have one at Myra Jean's the second Saturday of every month, and we have one at Lake Ellen on one Monday a month as well. We have a day-long retreat at the end of the year. They have an educational seminar at the medical school in Tallahassee. Pat and I have gone every year for the last few years, and I would say there are at least 6 people from Wakulla County who go there every year and get educated about Alzheimer's, the disease. I don't know how many people are in the county who really have it. There are many who won't face up to it, who don't want to admit it. It would be like it has a stigma like mental illness sometimes. And we want to reach out as much as possible. And one of the ways we're doing that is we're getting the library to order some new books and have a section of really good resources for Alzheimer's disease. And we would like to increase awareness, and that's one of the reasons why I am here tonight. I am requesting that we can use the One Stop Center. I've been talking with Sarah Daw and Mr. Gray at the community center about having a fundraiser concert. Now this is just for fun. I don't know if Wakulla has a lot of other Christmas concerts, but I love music, and we are planning an absolutely poppin' Christmas concert, and if you guys would let us use that community center without a fee, it would help us very much.
Howard, you want to go ahead and push your agenda item up now so she can, I'm going to support it, if that's
Sure,
okay with
that
you.
would be fine with me, if it's okay with the
You want to
board.
make the motion for what's your...
Yeah, I certainly would make that motion right now to, they'll be partnering with the Department of Health, Wakulla County Department of Health. That's what needs to be done. It has to be partnered with the department, or else we can't do this, okay? So we'll be putting you in contact with Pat Juarez, and
we know what to do.
yes, and there are fees that we can eliminate. There are some that we can not, but the rental fee, the straight rental fee, we can vote to waive that.
And I'll second your motion then.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. We hope you come to the concert November 29th, 7 to 9.
We're going to vote, Ms. Fox, but thank you for the presentation.
Oh, well, we're going to have it anyway. If you vote us or not, we're having it. I was practicing Boogie Woogie Santa all the way here.
You've
Okay.
listened to her play before at the Eden Springs prom.
Yes.
And you know how excellent her performance is. I just want to say one thing, because I provide some services in this area on almost a weekly basis. And I know that this respite is so good, and Pat has done so much. And all of these things that people can do when they have their loved one in a safe environment, but they also can do nothing, and they can just relax for those hours and take the pressure off themselves, because they don't have to be alert. Even when they go to sleep and take a nap, they never have that pressure off them, and here they can get that pressure off, and it's really important. Ties in very much with NAMI, and just those caregivers can get in real trouble if they don't have this respite.
Wonderful. Well, we have a first and a second. Any other discussion?
Commissioner Tom, were there any citizens cards on 15A? No? Okay.
All right, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you, Ms. Fox, for coming. Now we will move into the consent agenda portion.
Move consent.
With the exception of 17, pull for discussion. Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Kessler, kick us off on number 17.
Let me see what I have here. Well, I think this is a problem that doesn't exist, and it's a solution to that problem that doesn't exist. I think it's not in the best interest of the county, but that's my opinion. I just wanted to be able to vote against it. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion? Any speaker cards? Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-1. Now we're going to move into planning and zoning section. Mr. Louis Cerna, please.
The first item up is an application for final plat, FP 1404 for Sea Breeze subdivision. This is the Panacea RV Park LLC.
I thought you were going to reverse those.
We just talked to the applicant and
Okay.
decided not to. Dallas Marshall is the agent. This is a quasi-judicial item in accordance with Section 24.01 of the Code. Each commission member needs to disclose any contact you may have received from any interested parties, their representatives, lobbyists, or any other third parties concerning this application, or any personal knowledge you're relying upon when making your decision here today. Commissioner Merritt?
I had talked to a citizen today that called me.
And one clarification, I think since these are related applications, you can do this for both, and I can skip it and the next, which is the reason.
And I think I talked to the applicant a month or so ago.
Okay. Commissioner Moore?
Talked to a citizen and Mr. Dallas.
I spoke to the applicant, I spoke to Mr. Ken Rhodes, and received an email from attorney Mr. McMurray.
So I've spoken with the applicant several times. I've spoken with some of the residents some months back. I've spoken to Mr. Ken Rhodes today. I've received the same email I believe the other commissioners have received from an attorney, McMurray. And I've spoken to another, I've spoken to 2 other citizens in that neighborhood as well, and 1 today.
Okay. And I'd note that the correspondence from Charles McMurray is in the record, as well as a response to that from Mr. Marshall. And with that, if there is anyone here who will be providing any information concerning this application, please stand up to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Excuse me a second. If anyone has filled out a speaker card, also stand up and be sworn in.
Yes. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Thank you. Louis?
Yes, Commissioners, this is for a replat of 8 lots surrounding the Panacea RV Park. It is related to the rezoning item that will be coming up next. Attachment 1 shows the lots that are going to be combined. Basically, it's combining these lots into one big lot. If you look at Attachment 6, it is actually the final plat that is under consideration. The Planning Commission considered this item and unanimously voted to recommend approval, and staff is recommending option 1, also approval.
Motion to approve. Have a motion?
I'll second with discussion.
Okay, let's let the citizens speak. We'll start out with Mr. Bob Danzy.
Thank you for letting me speak, and my name is Bob Danzy. I'm going to be real short. I just support this and hope it moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, Mr. George Waldman.
Thank you. I live right next door to one of these lots, and when I moved in there, I've been there about 20 years now, and I own the place, so I'm not going anyplace. And when I moved in there, it's a 50 by 125 foot lot. I have a 50-foot trailer that's stretched out from end to end across the lot. Now, when I first moved in there, Carl Johnson owned the lot next door, and I had a good neighbor policy with Carl where it was no problem. I could always pull around into my backyard without any problem. I didn't have any problem with the next people after Carl. I have Mr. Dallas here who did agree to, to not deny me access to my backyard. I'm just here to try to guarantee that I keep access to my backyard, and that some type of easement that I'd be able to get in and out of my backyard with my truck and trailer. And that's what I'm here for.
Thank you, sir. Miss Linda Marshall.
Need to give you my address and everything?
Yes, ma'am, that's
Okay.
fine.
I'm Linda Marshall, and I live in Tallahassee, 3108 Livingston Road. And I'm married to Dallas, and RV Park is our park. And one of the reasons I want to enlarge it is I believe there's people here in Wakulla County who need a reasonable, affordable place to live. Now, there's a lot of people that are living off less than $1,000 a month, and I realize that there's some opinion that RV parks are just waiting to turn into dumps. Not my RV park, okay? Anybody who's been down there knows the rules and knows how it applies.
Ma'am, just directed at
We're
us.
very fair. But the thing of it is, people, there's several of our folks living there, they live off less than $1,000 a month. Now, the passerbyers come by, and they're the ones that help pay the bills around there, because they pay the higher premiums for overnight. And, you know, you talk about mental health and wanting to help people with mental health. Well, we have a young man that lives there. He works at Walmart, and he needs this place to live, okay? And he has issues, but he's a good person. He's not a bad person. So you got to take in consideration, this is a community where people come for a lot of different reasons, not just because they're RVers and looking for a place to have a good time. Some people are really there because they need to be, and it's my goal to give them a happy home. And, you know, good management makes a better park. You can have a condominium with well-heeled people, and let me tell you something, you got some well-heeled people that got high, expensive cocaine habits, alcohol habits, and it's not a great community, okay? It depends on the type of management, not the cost of the place. And I just want to say that we should consider the total package, not just one thing.
Thank you, Ms. Marshall. Next, Dallas Marshall. You are the last public comment on item number 8.
Okay, I have nothing more to add. I only have comments from George.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion among commissioners?
This is a replat, issue of replating, right? Combining all these lots into one big lot.
My only problem, Dallas and his wife have done a wonderful job in cleaning up what was a real mess. So I recognize that. They have cleaned it up. It looks 100% better than it did earlier. But I support the application to rezone to RV.
This is the final plat.
This is just the plat. That's
rezoning.
all we're doing. He already owns the lots, and this just combines it into one tax ID.
So this
number.
is just a combination.
Just to combine the lots.
Just to combine the lot. This does not get into whether or not they're going to put additional campers, roads, access, setbacks, and none of that.
I
Just
would
to
throw
Put
that
an
in.
oyster plant there if he wanted to. This is just to combine the lots.
Okay, I'm out.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, but let's, like to ask the county attorney regarding the issue that was brought up by Mr. George Waldman on the access to his yard.
This is the first we've heard of that. I mean, we cannot grant an easement on private property. That would be something that you would need to work out with the property owner themselves. Now, looking at the map, I don't know which property is yours. It does not appear that we're landlocking any, though. So.
I'm at 1547.
It's just between the flats.
Well, and I'd like, if we approve the plat, that doesn't change access, because
No.
Mr.
I think what he's doing, he's letting him drive, what he said, he has a 50-foot wide lot, his trailer's 50 feet across, so I guess you can't get to your backyard unless you go around the back. And he's been going around the back for years. Okay, and then he has said he'd continue, to me, that's issue between him and him. And we need to stay out of it.
That's a civil issue.
Right. If he wants to let him use it till the rest of his life, that's their business.
It's not something that is appropriate to make it a contingent approval on this plat.
Not in my opinion.
Well, I'm not asking for contingencies here. I'm just asking for the legal opinion of the situation of this gentleman.
Well, I mean, the legal opinion is we can't give him an easement and we can't put it here. He would need to get that from the property owner. If the property owner wants to give him an easement so that he can access the back of his property through their property, that would be a matter between them.
Okay. And so when we're saying we're making this into all one piece of property, there are different zonings there, but it would still be, all those different zonings would exist, and there'd be one piece of property. And so, okay.
Any further discussion? Call for the motion, or the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Passes 4-0. Next, item number 9.
Can't get a 5-0 vote on nothing.
Not tonight.
Hi there.
Not tonight. Close, but not quite.
We're not swearing again?
I swore on everyone.
Okay, yeah, just wanted to make sure.
Let me just state, is anyone speaking on number 9 that did not swear in for number 8? Okay.
All right, this item is...
Wait, Ralph.
I think he swore in. He swore in.
Okay.
All right, yeah, this item is for the rezoning related to the expansion of the Panacea RV Park from R1 and RMH1 to CTTP. This will allow for the expansion of the RV park. This does not address the site plan. That will come at a later date and be reviewed at the staff level. So there's a lot of issues that we will need to address as far as the layout and design and access and buffers and things like that. This is strictly to rezone the property to allow the expansion of the RV park. This item also did go to the Planning Commission on September 15th, and they voted unanimously to recommend approval.
Motion to approve.
Second for discussion.
I'd like to also discuss, Louis, how quickly can we turn around the discussion we had about notifying maybe abutting property owners of a site plan?
That has to be done by ordinance, which is at least a 3-month process. So when we do have a draft done...
I'd like to do that sooner rather than later. I do think we went through this on the apartments. I think in certain circumstances, if it was an affidavit of mailing was done where the applicant had to send a notification to the abutting property owners, because a lot of the concerns I was expressed to need to be addressed at the site plan.
Right.
The buffers, the fences.
Same with me.
Yeah.
All right, let's allow the citizens to speak. Mr. Bob Danzy.
Thank you for allowing me to speak again on this item. You know, I'd just like to say, as far as the expansion, I think it's a good thing. I think that there's people from Franklin County that'll wind up over here, maybe shopping at the grocery store in Panacea or maybe even in Crawfordville. But I know they pay bed tax too. So this will increase revenue to the county, helps to draw more people in to be introduced to our county. My friend owns a campground over in Gaston County, and he's cleaned it up and did an amazing thing there, and it's just done wonders for that whole area, for bringing people in there that didn't even know that Gaston County or Lake Talcott existed. So I realize there's already a campground there, but expanding it means more people there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Danzy. Next, Mr. Ken Rhodes.
My name's Ken Rhodes. I live at 13 Levy Bay, and I am against this, okay, as it stands now. Well, let me read something to you that I acquired today. This is Section 5-36 CTTP Travel Trailer Park Commercial District Regulations. District intent. The provisions of this district are intended to provide an area in which travel trailer parks may be operated for the convenience of persons desiring temporary accommodations for camping, tenting, and recreational vehicles. This zoning district is permissible in the Rule 2, Rule 3, or Rule 2, Rule 3, Urban 1, Urban 2, Commercial and Public Facilities, land use categories as designated in Comprehensive Plan. RV park recreational vehicles, you come and you go, okay? My concern is, and I know I have behind my property, but from the back of my trailer to 98 is already commercial, okay? Excuse me. Now, from the other part of my property, okay, it's going to come down, it's going to turn the corner, so I'm going to have permanent residence here and here as an RV park, and this is what he wants, is an RV park, okay, not a trailer park, okay? And I mean, there's so many things. The buffer zone, I mean, property value, mine drops, okay, if I have this next to me, okay? I mean, you know, this is just, it's an RV park, it's not a trailer park. And yes, he has cleaned the place up, I give him that, okay? But who's to say 10 years down the road it doesn't turn into the same place it was in the beginning, okay? If something happens, so on and so forth. And that's really all I have to say, but I am against it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Charles McMurray.
I'm Charles McMurray. I represent most of the homeowners there. I have one brother that has property across the street from us too that got me involved in this. To follow up on what Mr. Rhodes said, the zoning that this existing park is under is CTTP. It provides for temporary RVs where these people come in with these nice homes and they come and go and stay a week, kind of like a KOA campground. As indicated by Ms. Marshall, they want to have a place for affordable living for people that have low income. That's obviously not permitted under this zoning. That would be a trailer park of some sort. What they have in there now is permit for, I think, 50 sites. He wants to expand it to 100. Okay? Now, what the real issue is here, the R1 zoning lots that are buffering the park on the north, on the east, and on the south, he has now combined into one. There's several of them. But those R1 lots buffer all the surrounding neighbors from that existing park. Mr. Rhodes, who just spoke, and his neighbor, Mr. Ainar, have R1 behind them. They want to move the park right up next to them. All the lots on Withlahoochee that are R1 face R1, or they face one narrow little spot of the existing park across from Steve, who'll get up here in a minute, his house. There used to be a nice fence there that blocked the view of those RVs. That's been taken down. We're not saying Mr. Marshall took it down, but it was taken down. Now you look right into all these 23 little trailers that he's got in there now where people permanently live. There's, I think, one RV in there that's actually capable of moving under its own power. The rest you'd have to hook up to a pickup truck. And they're rented there on a monthly basis. They're not, the park's not being used as it's intended under the zoning. Now, there's been no studies done on the impact of the residents. There's no studies on the traffic. There's reports that there's backing up of sewage already on Levy Bay to 2 of the residents that live there. They've complained to me about it. He wants to put 50 more sites in there, which will all feed right into that same lift station. Okay. No study on that. No visual impact study, no noise study, no nothing. All these residents that live around, their objectives, they're all homeowners. They pay taxes. They vote here in Wakulla County. Mr. Marshall doesn't live here. He lives in Leon County. Doesn't pay taxes, doesn't vote. He hasn't offered anything to buffer anybody. Now, I know that's another issue that has to do with site planning. But the fact of the matter is, the objection that they're basing it on is the fact that when they bought their property, they bought it next to existing R1 lots that now he wants to expand his park. That's incompatible under any land use plan that you'd ever see, or anybody that looked at this and said, well, would you put these RV parks right next to an existing home? Well, I don't think you would. And that's what he's asking to do, and that's why they object to it.
Thank you, sir. Louis, would you clarify one thing I heard there? A pull-behind trailer pull camper, does that also meet the definition of recreational vehicle?
Yes, it does.
Okay. I mean, it sounds like that was a concern. I just wanted, that's a distinction. It doesn't have to be drivable to be an RV.
That's right. The zoning district does, or our land development code does define what a recreational vehicle is. It would not include a mobile home.
Okay, very good. Let's see, Mr. Steve Nunnery.
Thank you. My name is Steve Nunnery. My wife and I, Arlene Nunnery, we live at 89 Withlahoochee Street, directly behind the Panacea RV Park. And we've got a few issues about the expansion of the park. We currently, you know, from the park, there's different residents there that have pets. They like to walk them, you know, up and down the streets there, and our street's the first one behind them. And we've gotten the county, you know, involved, the animal control, as far as, you know, the picking up the mess behind the pets or whatever. And that helped for briefly, but it continues. And I'm concerned, you know, about the additional residents with the pets that they would bring. You know, now there's different times when I open my door to go out, there's, you know, nice folks walking their pets up and down the road doing business in front of my house. Also, in 1994, when our home was purchased, there was a privacy fence there around all three sides of the residential areas of the RV park. That has since then things kind of rotted away and, you know, just been taken away or whatever. Mr. Marshall's done a pretty good job cleaning up around there, but now, you know, when my wife and I opened the front door of our hooking out within, I'd say, probably 150 feet from my front door, I'm looking straight into, you know, one and then another road just a few feet over, straight down from in front of my house. There's no buffer whatsoever there. And also where, you know, he's wanting to add additional lots, you know, it's just right there, you know, also we'd like a buffer, to have our buffer put back that was there when we purchased our property. Let's see. And also, we'd like to do here at all. But like the pets, perhaps he could have a park. He's got plenty of area there. He could have a park there to, you know, to help with that situation. The traffic, we'd like to see if, you know, if it could be routed out, you know, on the 98 side instead of in the residential area, you know, where we are, if that would be possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. And again, I think most of those issues will be addressed during the site plan portion, assuming this moves forward. Next, Mr. George Waldman.
I don't really know what to say. I mean, it's his place. He can do whatever he wants as far as I'm concerned. I'm just, you know, I just want to have access to my backyard. That's about it. It's plain and simple. You know, now, when I moved in there, mine's a trailer, a camper. Not a camper, but it's a trailer, you know, house trailer. And my neighbors, there was a trailer there, and there was a trailer on the other side, too. And our understanding at that time was that if you moved that, you had to build 14 feet in the air. And I was under the assumption that all my neighbors, you know, on both sides and all, that eventually there would be these big houses up to 14 feet in the air, and the property would become, you know, worth quite a bit more because of that. Now it's going to change. There's going to be 6 campers right up next to me. And I'm not very happy about it, but it is his place, and, you know, God bless him, you know, he can do whatever he wants. As long as he lets me get in my backyard, I don't care.
Thank you, sir. Linda Marshall. Miss Linda.
George, I ain't going to comment on that backyard because I don't know if I could get in there as skinny as I am. But anyhow, I realize that RV parks are places where people spend temporary time there. But they're all throughout Florida, and that they are also recognized as a place where senior citizens also stay for a period of 6 months, and some of them continuously stay there for a lot of reasons. They're trying to live on their budget. Now, I don't have to live on their budget. That's true. And but still, my heart is with people, and I think that's what we're all about, is people, helping other people. And RV parks provide that opportunity, whether we like it or we don't like it. For somebody who has to live on a confined budget, it gives them an opportunity to be able to live. And I just don't feel that it's the right thing to deny people a home. And, you know, everybody in that park is free to go. And believe me, there's some that's going to be leaving here. I mean, in May, it looked like our park was half empty because a lot of people all left in May. Then about July, it started filling back up again. It's a lot of seasonal traffic. People come and go. And I think we have 4 or 5 people we've grandfathered in at the same rate. They're going to stay at the same rate. They've been there, and we realize that they're old Wakulla families. Okay? So, you know, it was our goal. We said these people need to have the same rate. They've been here for generations. It's not our place to go kick people out and tell them just because you don't have the the means to go somewhere else to go. And we got to make a profit. We can make a profit if we work smart and we do the right thing, and that's our goal. So.
Thank you. Dallas Marshall.
Thank you. And Mr. McMurray, I sure wish I didn't pay taxes in Wakulla County. That would be nice. I happen to have a place in Shell Point that I pay taxes on, and some other real estate around I pay taxes on. But Mr. George made a point about his backyard, and he's got like a 48-foot trailer on a 50-foot wide lot, and he's got 2 foot on each end of his trailer that he can get to his backyard. And I told him that I would be happy if I'm required to put a fence between my property and his property as a part of the plan review and site plan adoption. I told him I'd be glad to provide some kind of gate through that fence, and if he wanted to have access to the backyard, I wouldn't have any problem with that. I wouldn't see it as an everyday affair, you know. So I'm willing to accommodate him. Mr. Nunnery brought up the fact about the dog walk, and I think that's probably a good idea. And he called me on the phone one time and told me about the dogs walking in his front yard, and I passed the word through the RV park that they no longer need to be out there walking on the streets and doing that, and asked him to please promise to call me again if it happened again. And he assured me he would call me anytime it happened. And I hadn't gotten a phone call lately, but I would assume he's still willing to call me about it. But so that's a good point, and I think we can address that. We already have in our rules they got to be leashed, and they got to take care of their pets. So we've addressed that many times before. The fence issue, the privacy fence that was there, I've been there 3.5 years, and there's a chain link fence that goes between me and his property and my property. And that fence has been there, I would say, 20 years. It's an old chain link fence that's been right there, and I've never seen any evidence of a privacy fence on that back side of the RV park. So when it gets to site plan time, when I get ready to come up with a site plan, I'd welcome any input from any reasonable neighbor. I will commit that I will abide by all codes, all ordinances, and I'll do what's right by the county. And I would expect out of my neighbors to do the same thing. I would ask them to make sure they're not violating any codes or any ordinances, and in good faith, I'd be willing to deal with them when that time comes. And I'm here for any questions.
Thank you, sir.
So I have questions.
Please.
Yeah.
Mr. Marshall?
Hi, Mr. Marshall. Hi, Dallas.
Ah.
Okay. And before I go, but I'm going to ask you some questions, but I want to ask Mr. Cerna first on the issue of the RV park versus a trailer park. Do we recognize that as difference, Mr. Rhodes pointed? In other words, is there a permanency in a trailer park as opposed to a non-permanency in an RV park?
No, there's not a difference between what a travel trailer is and an RV, but the zoning just does say that these are temporary in nature. Now, we don't go monitor how long people are seen in these RVs, but I think that would just mean that if somebody decided to make something permanent, like a porch or put it on a foundation, then that would not be allowed because that would not be permanent.
If I could, Howard, Paradise Village, for example, in Shell Point, is a mobile home park. It's one of the few that we have.
Yeah.
You couldn't set up a RV in Paradise Village and live in it, correct?
That's right, and you could not put a mobile home
in his trailer park.
In
his travel trailer park and live in it either.
That's right.
And what's the distinction between a mobile home and because I know they sell small mobile homes that I've seen at camper parks all the time, in Carabel, for example. What's the difference between a big travel trailer and a small mobile home?
Well, my understanding is the travel trailer, an RV is permitted, the design is permitted by DOT, whereas a mobile home, I believe, is permitted by HUD, the design of those. And RVs are registered as vehicles.
Road-going vehicles, whereas a mobile home is not registered as a road-going vehicle.
That's right.
If it requires a tag, I mean, in Florida, it used to be if it was personal property, you could put a tag on your mobile home and not pay taxes, but, Howard, I get your point, the distinction between the two.
I'm not totally, but so the situation we're dealing with here, is it supposed to be temporary or can it be permanent? Or can it be both?
Well, the purpose of the CTTP district, it does mention that it is for temporary. We, like I said, we don't go out there but if they tried to permanently tie it down, for example, we would not allow that through some structural modification.
And I guess it's the term temporary is subjective.
You got two or three, I got two or three issues on this, basically. You either have a RV park or you have a mobile home park. You don't have both. Basically, what makes an RV park is basically you don't have a fountain, you don't have a porch. There is such a thing as a park model that RV parks are putting in. You don't pull those down a road, but RV parks put those in. And I personally, I've talked to Dallas, and he's probably not very happy with me, but I'm not happy with park models, because all of a sudden moved it from being an RV park trailer park to a trailer park. I can support Dallas in his application for RV if there's no skirting on those RVs, if there's no porches put on those RVs, if he doesn't put any park models in there. But I will not support a trailer park in Panacea. I will not do that. I'm one of 5, but I won't support a trailer park in Panacea. If you have, you do a wonderful job in cleaning up what you got, and you would probably do a wonderful forward with mixed use, whatever you want to call it. But the next guy behind you may not be the same way that you are. He may be absentee, but your nice work just all goes to heck. But in my opinion, RV park, or you can go for zoning on a trailer park, which I would not even consider. But I will vote with you on the RV, but only with the no skirting, no porch, no park models. Now, the people that you have in there now, I totally agree with you. They're not responsible for what you've bought the property or what you want to do with it. You can keep those people until they move, or whatever. They move on out of this world. I have no problem with those people continuing to live there on a permanent basis. But I've been approached by no less than 4 other groups who want to build RV parks in the county. And basically, without any question, in those 4, they are looking basically for park models almost immediately, because they want to build something that people can come down to Wakulla and basically live. They live in 400 feet. Now, that's fine, but that's a mobile home park. That's not an RV park, and I will object to that each and every time it comes before us.
Jerry, I'd like to clarify some of that, if you don't mind. Louis was right about who licensed it. I've financed mobile homes, which are called manufactured homes now, but whether you call it trailer, mobile home, manufactured home, he's correct that HUD issues a HUD label. If there's a single wide, it's got 1 label. If it's a double wide, it's got 2, and each one is tracked. HUD requires it be a minimum of, I think it's 700 square feet in order to be a manufactured home. So if someone wanted to have a true trailer park like Paradise Village, they could put any HUD approved manufactured home in that property.
That's correct.
Okay? A park model is going to still be classified as an RV. It's still a camper. It does not rise to the level of meeting HUD's requirement for a manufactured home. So if he did nothing, if he just withdrew this, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, Louis, but I don't believe that there's anything that prohibits a park model from going on any of those spots today, as long as we keep it in a temporary nature. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert on what a park model is, but as long as it was temporary, you know, if they tried to tie it down or skirt it or put it on a foundation, I think that would be a different matter, just based on our zoning district.
I think the main thing is we just need to be careful not to get too deep in the weeds. This issue is about rezoning, exactly, and whether or not this can be rezoned. If he's going to have additional site layouts, Louis is going to have to look at that and determine if park models are going to be allowed or not allowed. I don't believe that the zoning question can be answered whether or not. I don't think we can put that condition on it at this stage.
Then basically speaking, is that something that will come forward at another time?
Site plan.
The site plan will be reviewed.
So that will come this way at that time.
It'll probably be a staff level review based on the size of this development.
If this does pass, Dallas, I would highly encourage you to get with your neighbors and make it a lot easier at site plan review. You know, if what they ask for is a privacy fence, we don't need to discuss it now, but just from seeing this in the past, it'd make your and their life a lot easier if you get with them beforehand and try to resolve all the issues.
Louis, are you saying that basically staff would determine what can go into the RV park? Or will it come back to us?
No, it'll be determined by staff through the site plan review process, and we'll look into that, whether or not the park model is something that is allowed in the zoning
So it
district.
doesn't come back for our vote?
That's right, not the site plan.
Well, and it's based on the ordinance as it stands now. So if we don't like the ordinance as it stands, the mechanism would be to change the ordinance, because let's say, for example, our ordinance allows park models. Well, it allows park models regardless of whether we rezone this or not.
It'll allow them at the place by the bay.
Yeah.
What's the name of that? Holiday, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, at any campground. I suspect it does. We certainly need to look at that, but that it really doesn't have a lot of bearing on whether or not we get the zoning approved.
I think what they don't want is something like used to be on Jack Crum Road, which that was a trailer park, and I think most people probably don't remember it, but that was.
Or Hudson Heights?
Bad scene.
Or,
Louis,
not
when
Hudson
you...
Heights, but,
well, that one's not too bad.
Right there.
When
by-
you're-
no, I'm talking about the one by Walmart there.
When you're doing this, Louis, look at the skirting issue, because all of a sudden when you skirt them, you whether you anchor them down or not, they're there. They're there.
Yeah, in my opinion, that would be permanent, but I would definitely look into that issue.
Well, you could technically say skirting doesn't make it permanent, because they could take skirting down and move in a week, but that just doesn't happen. Also, the porches, the building of exterior buildings, whatever, building a porch on that okay.
We'll look into that.
Can we just get some clarification on how the citizens or the residents are exactly...
Sir, that'd be a good discussion for another time, but I don't think it has any bearing on this particular issue. But I would direct you to see Louis after this meeting, and I'll get involved in that process, have the citizens speak when that process comes forward.
Will this go to TRC?
Yes.
You may want to advise them they can give input at technical review committee then.
So there'll be a couple of opportunities for the citizens to participate. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I just was, thanks, Dallas. So I just want to get clear of what we're dealing with here. We do have permanent residents right now. The intention would be to grandfather in those permanent residents.
If they misbehave, I'm gonna ask them to leave, but if they continue to pay their rent and behave themselves, they'll...
Right, I'm not speaking on behalf, I'm just trying to understand the situation, park as it exists now. And the intention is, I heard, to grandfather in, even from the board and out here, is to grandfather in the permanent residents, barring any unforeseen... Okay, but they are permanent residents in an unpermanent... Yeah, right, but it's a park that's not intended to be permanent.
The issue of permanency is the structures, not the residents.
Okay, so is that right, Louis, as far as planning and zoning, that it's, as read it, our ordinance is from the, as you read it, is just for the structure, not for stays there for 5 years?
Yeah, we don't have any way of enforcing the person
Okay.
anyway.
And that's okay.
I'm assuming, and this might help a bit, a spot, they can't rent a spot with a camper on, comes and rents the camper and the spot, right?
I don't think we would even get involved in that. I think if somebody had a camper there that they wanted to rent to somebody else, I think you could do that. We would not even involve, it would just be...
And then as owners, could they take a spot, pull up a camper on it, and rent it out as a house, basically?
I think they could rent, I don't see where that would be necessarily inconsistent.
Not rent it as a house, rent
Rent it as a camper, yeah.
Somewhere to live.
Yeah, it's a permanent residence.
To clarify one
Please,
thing, maybe.
please.
RV is licensed by the department, it's got to have wheels on it, it's got to be mobile. I have a regulation in my park that upon 20 hours notice of getting a hurricane evacuationist, that you have to be out of there. They got to be mobile. Now, if that tag expires, I've got a camper in there that doesn't have a current tag on it, I would be in violation of the RV park ordinance. So to have a park model that's permanently erected and doesn't have a tag on it, doesn't have a wheel on it, and it can't get out within 24 hours would be not only a violation of my rules, but would be a violation of the... It doesn't have wheels, it doesn't have a tag, it's not a motor vehicle, it's no longer an RV, so you're violating the ordinance.
So you have a system of checking to make sure the tags remain current?
I don't, other than the tag and look at the sticker, that's all I can do.
Right.
There's nothing, with all due respect, Dallas, to keep Dallas from owning.
I think there is.
Now you've got a trailer park.
What's wrong with that?
Just give me a minute. That he's asking for is for an RV. That's what he's asking for.
Right.
I don't think the citizens of the county would actually be conducive to a mobile home park. I don't think the citizens of the county would be conducive to a mobile home park in any part of the county.
So is there something that stops Mr. Marshall from applying for a...
No.
And so if he applied for that and he got the zoning, then he could do that?
I would object to that myself.
And
But-
that would
but
be an
that's what I'm
RMH1, right, or something along those lines. If he was applying for a mobile home park, he wouldn't be applying for this zoning. It would be a RMH1 designation where he could bring real manufactured homes in there.
That's right, he cannot do manufactured homes or mobile homes in this.
He doesn't have
district.
mobile homes in there now.
That's correct.
Okay, so he's expanding the same use that's there now.
Yes,
Okay. And he couldn't bring in a mobile home under this zoning. He could not do it.
that's correct.
Okay. And from what I'm understanding, the mobility aspect or the temporary aspect has to do with the structure and not the length of time that a person lives in that structure at that site.
That's correct.
Okay, well, that cleared up
I
that
think
point.
it's kind of a matter of semantics, to be honest with you. It's over the last few years, it's gotten to where some of the campers are basically small mobile homes. I'm not going to deny that, but I don't necessarily have an issue with it. You know,
Okay, and I'm not looking to mess with anyone's business plan.
I don't think it's going to turn into a blight, personally.
Well,
I think as long as we follow the rules and apply them evenly,
okay,
we'll be okay.
yeah, but they're not letting me finish over here, Dallas, and I'm sorry about that, but you will lose weight before the end of the evening.
That'd be a good thing.
All right.
That'd be a good thing.
All right. So then I'm just going to be asking some questions that I heard come up in the discussions. The increase of sites from 50 to 100, is that stated anywhere? Is that something
No,
that you're
that's
intended to do?
with the size of the land and all that, that may be my capability of doing that. That's a number I'd have grabbed out of there. It might be 92, it might be 110, probably lesser on the
Okay,
low
so that's a
side.
reasonable assumption that it could go to
Yes,
that.
just
Okay.
assumption, yes.
And then on the privacy fence, when we look at privacy fences, Louis, are we looking at chain link fences or wooden fences that you can't see through, or what does that mean in your thing as far as a privacy fence?
A privacy fence is opaque, and it's 8 feet, a minimum of 8 feet in height.
Okay, so you can't see through it, and it's 8 feet minimum.
Mhm.
Okay, Okay, so it seems like the residents are asking for a privacy fence that they would not be able to see through, and I seem to I might ask the gentleman later about when that at least portion of a fence may have been up, but I seem to remember at some time there was a portion of a wooden fence up there on I think on with Lahuchi Street. But
Right here, sir. This would be my place right here, and the fence went straight across the back here. So I never even seen the RV block. This is a road, and now they're going to be right here.
okay.
There was a...
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah,
Ralph, that's
yeah,
where
yeah,
you're
okay.
at.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So, would you be agreeable?
That's
would,
enough, sir.
would you be agreeable to be discussing that and accommodating the residents with a opaque 8-foot fence around your properties?
If that's what's required, yes, but if they're looking for a visual buffer, you could do it with vegetation, you can do it in other ways. I appreciate a sea breeze myself. As a matter of fact, if you'll notice, the name on my plat is Sea Breeze subdivision, and a sea breeze is a nice thing. And when you put up a visual wooden 8-foot fence, you restrict your breezes somewhat. And so if I could do it, if it's allowed within the code, which I don't know if it is, do it with vegetative buffers and other things like that. I don't want my people to look at their backyards any more than they want to look at my backyard. And if you've ridden by and looked at some of those backyards, you would understand what I said. So why I said that. But yes, I'm going to do what is required, and if it's got to be a wooden impervious fence, then that's what it will be. You know?
Okay, and Louis, am I correct from what I heard? I think I heard that this site plan, if this passes and if this gets to the point of developing a site plan, the site plan will not be coming back to the board.
That's correct.
Okay, and so the only chance for us to discuss this site plan that doesn't exist right now is here. And we've been in this situation before where people get real upset with a site plan that comes forward and the board says, well, we have nothing to do with it. You know, it was over at
Can we make
P&Z.
zoning changes contingent, Heather? I thought we said we couldn't do that.
No.
So we either got to approve it or disapprove it.
Right.
I understand what you're saying, though.
Right, and I think what I'd like to hear from Mr. Marshall in trying to get some middle ground here is, okay, that he is agreeable to an 8-foot opaque fence around this
Can I
property.
ask Louis something
Yeah,
along
sure,
those lines?
please.
Louis, is this considered a commercial zoning district, this CTTP?
Yes, it would require the incompatible land use buffer.
And do you know what the buffer is? I was trying to look it up, but my browser was outdated. What the landscape ordinance calls for a buffer zone between the two uses?
Yeah, he does have some options. A fence is not necessarily required if he provides the wider feet.
And it
20
has to be
feet
a
wide.
certain, screen has to be a certain height too, right?
Yeah,
8-foot
8 feet.
screen,
Mhm.
all right? That could be a tree or a fence.
Yeah, he can go down to 10 feet and provide a fence, or go up to 20 feet wide and provide additional buffer.
Specific regulations for incompatible use separate. Now, what his use from the right-of-way to the...
As well for people on with Lakuchi, so yeah, we would require a buffer along
Either
with Lakuchi.
25 feet with an 8-foot screen, which could be trees, and how long do those trees have to grow? I mean, can they put a tree this big and say it's going to be... So the rules guarantee some sort of buffer between the incompatible uses, probably a lot more than what's there today.
So that's great, and I think that is a value hearing this, that there are several options, or at least two that I'm hearing. One is he can have a 10-foot buffer, and he puts a 8-foot 8-foot fence.
And landscaping.
And that landscaping in the 10-foot buffer. Or he can not do the fence and do
25 feet.
25 feet with at least 2.5-inch trees.
Diameter tree at rest height.
So there is a significant, separation between the proposed development and your residential properties, okay?
Even the ones that butt the right-of-way. That's what he said, right, Louis?
Yeah, along with Lakuchi,
Along
we
with
require
So
a
people
buffer.
live across the road from Withlacoochee.
Okay. And then the other, so I think that should give some comfort to the neighbors. The second thing, and you're okay with that, Mr. Marshall?
I intend to
He has
follow
to be.
every rule
Well,
that
yeah,
is
but I
laid
just
out.
want,
Yeah.
I'd like the neighbors to hear him say that.
No, I intend to do what's required under the code.
Yeah.
I expect them to comply with zoning ordinance and codes too. If they have a violation of a zoning code or a setback ordinance, I would expect them to comply with that. If I'm gonna comply with my neighbor, that's in violation of a code and ordinance, and they expect me to comply with the code and ordinance, I certainly expect them to comply with codes and ordinances as well.
Okay. And the other issue that I want to address,
Yes, sir.
before I actually have another person I want to call up, but the traffic pattern. The privacy fence is intended to go all around his property, the proposed property, is that correct, Louis? Or the buffer?
Or the buffer, yeah.
Either one, okay? And the buffer does not permit a driveway through it.
Well, I think you could require, if there was a driveway in the rear or along the side, a driveway to get through the buffer. I think we do have some concerns about the RVs and commercial uses on a dirt road, if that was the case.
Well, even on a non-dirt road, if those roads got paved, I don't think, at least what I've been told from the residents, that they're not going to be real happy with the anticipation of having large vehicles coming down their little road, whether it's paved or unpaved, and basically being used as a commercial entrance. The point being, will this property have, on the site plan, and that, again, doesn't come back to us, but right now, and I spoke with Mr. Marshall, the temporary use is accessing through 98, but with the plan that Mr. Marshall was considering, they'd be able to, if they wanted to, exit all 4 directions from that project. So they'd be able to exit on Levy Bay or exit on Withlacoochee or Chattahoochee or 98.
Yeah, we would have some concerns, I think the TRC would, about that, using those roads just from a maintenance standpoint, and also a separation of land uses. I don't think we have any regulations, though, that would prohibit that.
We actually encourage, in Crawfordville at least, not to use the main road as the entrance, but try to use a side road, similar to how the Family Dollar, they're just north of Walmart. But I understand what you're saying, don't drive all the way around back down a dirt road to come
Well,
in.
but and that impacts, and that's what these neighbors are saying, that impacts them. So let's change out property rights. Mr. Dallas has the right to do with his property, but the people that are sitting there with their property had an expectation, okay, and of this being a neighborhood with R1 or what's there. So that expectation, if it's taken away, that they're going to have that now and it's going to be used as a commercial access, that will impact them.
I don't think y'all would allow him to access all the way from the rear of his property. He has to have paved road access, doesn't he, to be, and I think Levy Bay's the only one.
See, there's access now, I think, or at least some of the lots that are there now, where you're able to access from the rear.
Well, the RV park has access to 98, and we would encourage that continued to be used. And but I don't know if there's anything I don't think there's anything that would prohibit him from using a rear entrance. I think we would try to, through the TRC process, discourage that.
Do we have, this is an RV park, okay? That's what we're talking about. What happens when Mr. Dallas owns all the RVs and he rents them on a monthly basis?
As long as it's operating under the zoning district regulations, we don't have any say on who owns the RVs. I don't know if that would be something he could do.
That's
And I don't have a plan with his business model. I mean, that's his business. I'm not looking to put my fingers in it.
I have a question about the rear entrance. Let's say if he was not rezoning it, he owns that property now. could he drive across that property and use it as an entrance or an exit now if we were not considering this rezoning?
It would go through the site plan process, and we would have to consider that. But yeah, he does touch the rear, that with Lacucci Street, so, yeah, it would be the same issue, same consideration, with or without the rezoning.
That exists, with or without. We keep getting back to the issue of whether or not these concerns, legitimate concerns, and we need to be concerned about it, but does it have a bearing on the agenda item, the rezoning? Let's let Howard finish.
Well, let me ask a question. Right now, I have my dump station in the back of that RV park, and I have a gate there. When I get a big rig towing a car, they can't turn around. They can't pull in that RV park and turn around. They have to come in one way and go out the other. So I have to open that gate, and they have access to with the Lacucci back there. And that's the way it is right now. And I would anticipate that being the same in the future. I'm going to plan my development so that the majority of my traffic, my transient traffic, comes in and off 98. If I've got permanent residents that live in the RV and the RV doesn't move but once every 6 months or once every 6 years, I can't tell you how often they're going to move, but they won't be going in and out with their RVs to that back street. That's not going to happen. Their automobiles, when they drive to work, possibly might drive out in their automobiles and drive down that street. So we can address these issues at the but right now I can go out the back with RVs right now.
Yep. So Attorney McMurray handed me a piece of paper that looks like it's from our Wakulla County, Florida Code of Ordinances, Section 5-36, CTTP Travel Trailer Park Commercial District Regulations. Parentheses 2 says special requirements. It says 1, non-residential access, which would be these RVs going in and out. Non-residential access to principal arterial roads shall be from frontage or service roads or from side streets rather than directly from the abutting arterial roadway unless no such alternate access is available. It seems like they have to use the non-arterial roadway. Is that how you interpret it?
Well, in this case, we already have an existing driveway in the front, and we do have a residential neighborhood behind them. So I think we would encourage them to keep using that existing driveway. What we'd want to discourage is, new driveways along arterials.
And I think that encouraging is great, but in order to give comfort to the neighborhood, there has to be that. I don't know. This sort of flies in the face of this.
Can you clarify for me, are you saying that it has to be non-arterial?
It's in our agenda packet.
Okay.
It's attachment 3.
I think basically we don't want new driveway cuts on arterial roads, is what
That's
that
the point I
language
was
is.
making earlier.
Right, I understand that, but then that would not prevent...
Well, it's an existing driveway, though.
So it sounds like this is encouraging the use of service roads and side streets.
Just like the Family Dollar north
It's
of
it's discouraging entrance and exit from 98.
Exactly. And that's what the impact on the neighborhood is.
Mm-hmm.
That's why this zoning is...
It also says
is
non-residential. I mean, I know.
Right, so each one of those...
Well, this is all
campers
considered
that come in, they're
non-residential.
non-residential,
But this is the case today. So,
the case today, it comes...
No, I mean, this rule is in place today.
Oh, yes,
so,
yes.
So we could say that we need to be discouraging him from using 98 at all, and we need to direct all the traffic to the side road based on what... Well, let's see. Well, can we get our county attorney to opine? I'm just trying to understand.
We let Howard continue with these questions.
Yeah, I'd like to call, to ask Attorney McMurray to come up here, because, he basically is representing the neighborhood at this point in time, and so he's the agent for the neighborhood, and even though they don't have a homeowners association, he is the person.
Well, my reading of that was that they're encouraging you not to go through neighborhoods, and the way it's worded is to use roads like 98 to get in and out, which is what the park's all about.
That's not, that's the exact opposite of what it says.
That's
not
not
the way
But I guess I don't read it that way, because
Let's break it down.
It doesn't make any sense the other way.
Okay, let's break it down. Non-residential access to principal arterial roads. So Highway 98 is the principal arterial road. So the non-residential access to Highway 98 shall be from frontage or service roads, shall, not may. So, I mean, he could make a case that he needs to have all his traffic go in any of the other roads with the exception of 98. I think this, let's see, shall be from frontage or service roads or from side streets rather than directly from the abutting arterial roadway. So, this is what's on the books today. And so, again, whether we approve this, this is already in, he has the property he owns already, he has the access. According to this, he's supposed to be using those side roads, and so I just don't want us to get hung up on that. I mean, obviously, Louis not going to close down his driveway for Highway 98, but it sounds like if we were permitting this today, that's what we would require. We would want him to enter from one of these side streets.
If this was a totally new project, we have to make sure that he did not come on 98, if he had access to any other way of leaving.
Correct.
But let's think about that logically. Obviously, what the intent there is, the way you read it, is that they don't want a lot of traffic on 98 slowing down and stopping and maybe an accident occurring there. But the reality of it is people driving by there would only see the front of this part. How are they going to know where to get around behind through some neighborhood?
That
to wind
issue's
in
not
there?
even on the table. We really
Yeah.
should move on.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you,
It's
sir.
an impact that the neighbors are concerned about, obviously.
And they should be, and definitely they should be involved in the site plan process. No, sir. Any other discussion from the board? I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Up to you,
I
Howard.
haven't voted.
Huh?
I haven't voted yet, yep.
Okay, let's do a quick recap of basic zoning then. Because there's a burden shifting test here in Florida. Once a property owner seeking to rezone his or her property has the initial burden of proving that their proposal is consistent with our comp plan and with what our code requires.
Which it is.
And once he has made that, then he has made a prima facie case that he's entitled to the rezoning. It is then, if this board is going to deny that rezoning, the burden shifts to you. You have the burden to demonstrate that maintaining the existing zoning classification with respect to that property accomplishes a legitimate public purpose, and you need to do that by showing competent substantial evidence in the record.
I change my vote to aye.
I will recall the vote. All in favor of the motion that's on the table?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I'm going to go with it also.
Very good. Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Passes.
And I
4-0.
think that if I might, Mr. Chairman, that this needs to be addressed fully in the site plan, and I encourage that the neighbors be notified of every opportunity to have their input, whether it's a technical review, whether it's at the Planning and Zoning Department, the board meetings, that they be put on notice.
Probably the TRC be the best.
Yeah, we'll be glad to work with them.
Okay.
Also, it's always good to point out that these ordinances are, they're a work in progress. If there's something that needs to be changed, it may not affect this issue, but we need to continually be looking at that, or if the citizens see something that needs to be changed, that can be vetted and that can be brought through in a public hearing process, and we can decide, does it stay the way it is, or do we make these changes, even to the point of we've tried to streamline and put a lot of approval on staff's shoulders so everything doesn't become a political football issue, and I think that's a good thing. But if there's things that the buck needs to stop here, then we could change that procedure as well and not make it a staff automated approval. Thank you.
All right.
Well, that was easy.
Yes, it was a good conversation. All right, next we're going to move to item number 10, application to close and abandon a portion of Magnolia Street.
Yes, this item is to close or abandon. It's approximately 250 feet of Magnolia Street, and the best way to describe this is through the picture.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And this is a road that does not exist except on paper. There is a
This
pond.
portion that we're closing is it has a sinkhole in the middle of it.
All right, we have one citizen would like to speak. Ms. Salonia Banks?
I need to know exactly what's going to occur because right now I have water when it rains that settles right in front of my house. That property is right in front of my house. So I need to know exactly what plans are being put into place to protect my home as well as to continue the beautification of my home.
Yes, ma'am. There on the screen behind you is a drawing that shows the segment of road that's proposed to be closed, and that road is there's a pond there, so you cannot get through. And what's going to happen? Nothing is going to be built. They are just going to abandon this segment on paper, so the owners can block it off if they wish. Our understanding is that people are getting on this property and dumping trash and things like that. So you could not build a road in there unless you fill that wetland or low area or whatever it is, but it is a pond. So there will not be any development occurring as far as construction goes. So I don't know if that answers your question. They're just abandoning that segment of roadway.
Okay, so when you're saying abandonment, does that, who's going to maintain that? Who's going to keep them from further dumping on that property?
It will revert to the owners on either side, which are the applicants for this road closure, and they will be responsible. If there is trash on there, it could become code enforcement, so it would be in their best interest. And I think my understanding is they do want to fence it off and post it so people cannot trespass and dump trash. Right now, on paper, they don't own it. It's public property, so people can just go on there, and they can't make them leave unless they call the sheriff.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, hopefully it will make the situation better as far as trash goes.
Okay, and so when they fence it, what type of fencing are we going to have?
There's no requirement as far as visually. They could do chain link. They could just post no trespassing signs if they want. So there's no requirement for a fence.
Are they here today? I would like to ask them personally what type of fencing they're going to put around there.
Ma'am, that's not really appropriate for this time.
Okay.
Certainly, it's a good question to ask, and hopefully good neighbors will work those things out. All that's being decided here is simply who owns the property.
Okay.
Right now, the county owns the property. The section that you see in yellow, we're just, the request is that we give up ownership of it. If you could see the satellite view, the pond is physically located in that area. So even though on paper it's supposed to be a road, we're certainly not going to fill that in and make it a road.
Okay, because that's right in front of my house.
Since there's no functional use to that property,
Okay.
if we abandon it, then half of it goes to each adjacent property owner. Then they have the ability to control it, stop the dumping, but we're not, no one is proposing.
The part in front of your house is not going to be abandoned.
Okay.
No.
It
No.
goes
Okay.
back in several hundred feet, then it gets abandoned.
Okay.
It goes back till it gets to the pond. Now I know what you're asking.
There we go. We're not
That part's
closing the
not
entire
gonna
road.
be-
Oh, okay.
Just that little
Yeah.
section that you saw
Okay.
in yellow.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. We don't want to landlock you. Thank you.
That's good.
Any other discussion on this?
Is there any fish in that pond? It's pretty big.
All right, let's call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Number 11 has been tabled. Let's move to number 12, request board approval of the sewer revenue bond. David, are you taking that one?
Sure. We're requesting approval of the sewer revenue bond resolution to finance the cost of the Otter Creek wastewater treatment plant expansion. And my partner, Mark Mushin, is here to give you a brief overview and answer any questions that you may have.
Welcome, Mr. Mushin.
What we have, this is the rural development loan for a little over $6 million for the sewer system. This is, which before you tonight is sort of the base document that will be used to do that. The process is that you approve this document. Rural development requires the bonds to be validated, so we have to file a suit against the state and go through that process. And then you'll come back and do interim financing for the project, and then these bonds will be the permanent financing, and we'll take that out. So it's sort of a long process, but get you money at a rate and for a length of time that you probably couldn't, nobody can do it anywhere else.
Say file a suit against the state?
Yes, sir.
You gotta sue somebody to get something bonded?
Well, they require, it's a voluntary procedure under the statutes. It's a way of having your bonds declared judicially valid, and rural development, if they're gonna loan you the money, they require you to do it.
Is this the bond that we have for the USDA?
Yes.
And how long do you think that process will take?
I mean, it'll take 90 days to do the bond validation, and then they require you to have the bids in before you do the interim financing. So it depends on your construction schedule after that.
How long will it be before we get our money and we can start construction?
Probably about April, May next
Motion to
year.
approve.
But that'll be the interim funding.
The interim
that will start
funding,
the
and we'll go to
project.
construction probably in June,
So
something
this
like that.
bond will pay off that interim funding.
Yeah. And then we start building sewer up Spring Creek Highway?
Oh, that's
This is
just
for
the
the
sewer
plant.
plant.
This is just for
Okay.
the plant.
Up Spring Creek Highway's coming. That is
That's a
coming.
grant.
We're waiting for the agreement right now for that.
Okay.
Did you make a motion?
Yes.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Any
you.
other discussion from the board?
Yes, did we find out that?
The amount that is bond is the actual amount of the loan, the $6,904,995.
Okay, thank you.
$6,495,995.
I'm good.
All right, any other discussion? One citizen, Bob Danzy.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas, for letting me speak. This is one of those items that is, to most people, is terribly boring. What are we going to do? We're going to expand the sewer plant, and what does that mean? But I just want to say, from a standpoint of a realtor, somebody that encourages Wakulla County to grow, this is a huge deal, because our sewer plant, these things probably the average person don't know, and I know it's one of Randy's big deals is our, I think you had Cleve's job, didn't you, one time?
Did I?
Yeah, from what I understand. So, with that being said, it's a huge deal because we can't do very much more development whatsoever. I'm talking if you want certain stores, anything that takes a lot of water, we're at capacity. So I just encourage the public to embrace this. And I thank you.
And I'd also like to point out, this is gonna bring our plant up to AWT standards, right, David? Which means the nitrogen level coming out of this plant is gonna be better than the background groundwater coming out of the ground beneath it.
Very good. Any other discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Commissioner agenda items. Commissioner Merritt, you are up.
Okay, I talked about this under discussion, but I had a citizen that lived in the River Sink area requested that the board designate the River Sink area, and I included a map in here as a golf cart community. Of course, they could not. That doesn't mean you can drive across 319 or down 319, but it'd be similar to what the Panacea is. It's low-speed areas. It's all paved roads. It's all county-maintained roads. I think there's even speed bumps there, but so I'd like to make a motion that we direct staff to amend the golf court ordinance to include the River Sink area.
Second, with the hopefully friendly amendment of including that exact verbiage of prohibition from crossing
I
319.
think, doesn't our existing ordinance say you cannot cross a state road?
It might, I'd have to look.
If it doesn't, I'm fine with that.
Okay, that's good.
I second it.
Yeah, he already did.
Oh.
All right. We have no citizens to speak on this one. Any further discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0.
Next item is the Songbird sidewalk. I think I discussed this again under discussion items. To me, it's a different situation. It's not necessarily a subdivision sidewalk. It is one that could be used to connect 319 with Wakulla Aaron Road at some point in the future. And they had requested the county take over maintenance of that sidewalk. I talked to Heather about this. The right-of-ways are dedicated on the plat. I don't think it's going to be a huge expense for us. I think if we do the standard way we do roads, the Public Works Department will go out and inspect the sidewalk, make sure it meets standards, and then the county would accept it for maintenance. Brent, that's how we do roads, right? I would recommend we follow the same procedure for that. In other words, we're not inheriting a sidewalk that's all broke up and cracked, and we got to go out there and spend money on it.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
We have
Ms.
one-
Harts chastised me for doing that one time, you remember? Making a motion on her item, but I'm not gonna do that, Jerry.
One citizen, Bob Danzy.
I had a lot to say tonight, so I'm very short on this, but my parents live in Songbird, and my dad couldn't be here. He had to go out of town to the doctor in Dothan, but he did ask me. I told him about this was coming, and he asked me if I would just ask you to move forward with this. He thought it was the right thing, and to save another trip up here, closing the road for Halloween. I think it's your next item. It would be a tremendous idea. I've been there for the past couple Halloweens, and I don't know if I could say thousands of people, but there's a lot of people that go there, so I want to support that too.
So I can put that one away.
Would you amend your motion, Jerry, that we accept it for maintenance as long as it's done under the same procedure we use for roadways and subdivisions?
I do.
All right, now I'll amend my second.
And to be clear, this is, we're not setting a precedent for taking on subdivisions sideways in front of their houses.
No, this is the first sidewalk, to my knowledge, that the county has ever taken that wasn't built by the county itself.
Okay.
And this is on a collector road. It's not on a local road or...
The homes don't face this.
No, none of the homes front on Songbird. Nobody's driveway is off Songbird Avenue.
Or from some.
Right.
Right, so I just wanted that verbalized that,
No,
we're
we're
not
not
going to
setting a
go...
precedence for going out.
Collector roads are different than the
Correct.
local neighborhood roads. We're not setting a precedent for taking on the neighborhood road sidewalks.
Correct.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0.
Next motion is to have
I
another...
make a motion to approve.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
This is the Halloween road.
Halloween Road.
Those that don't know, this is a huge deal. The people of Songbirds have been generous enough to host neighborhood children. Now, Jerry, I would ask you to amend your motion, please, to say that no golf carts, ATVs. Mine says operated by an adult over 18. I think we should just make it simpler to enforce a person with a driver's license. That way a kid can show their driver's license to the deputy and they'll let them on in. Billy, you okay with that?
I amend my motion to accommodate
I'll
that.
amend my second. Is that all right with y'all?
And the
Second?
Sheriff's Department has agreed to
Yep.
monitor
This
this.
came up with the CTST, no problem, and it's a big community service and a lot. If you're a politician, you probably want to go to that. Taylor.
Can y'all say what it is you're gonna do?
All right, the proposal, if Jerry hadn't cut me off, is Halloween night to cut off Songbird Avenue at Wakulla Aaron all the way up to where the subdivision starts, and only residents will be allowed to go in and...
All the way to 319?
No, not all the way to 319, all the way up to where the first subdivision road starts.
The sidewalk.
The sidewalk. And then only residents will be allowed in to drive. They can come in, and only golf carts operated by licensed drivers will be allowed in and out. So that stops the kids running around on four-wheelers, screaming around, and people driving their kids around on a truck or something. That's issues out, and make it a lot safer. The deputies are going to enforce it at both ends.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I agree. This is a very congested and happy neighborhood at Halloween. I tried this morning, and it worked on 3 of the 4 people in the room. I was there one year, and this one child dressed up as a ghost, and the costume was so good, but it had a fault to it, though. When you put candy in his hands, it fell through the holes.
I just got it.
All right.
Thanks for the help.
Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0.
All right, this next item is not an endorsement of anything, but I had called DOT, and I've advocated for years to try to have landscaping at the McDonald's intersection instead of concrete, and I called Bryant Paulk to ask him if, in their plans, if they could include landscaping, if they're going to do that intersection, at least include landscaping maybe in the medians, and I asked that they would maintain the landscaping also so it doesn't cost us anything. This is not endorsing the intersection. I would make a motion that we ask staff to prepare a memo to DOT and ask them if whenever they do proceed with the intersection, that they include landscaping in the intersection design and that they agree to maintain that landscaping.
Do we have a second?
All righty then.
Dies for lack of second.
Okay.
Maybe I'll bring it back when Richard's here. Well, I can't bring it back, can I?
Mm-mm.
If it died? Okay.
To get the chairman's permission.
All right.
If you'd like me to, I'll introduce Commissioner Harden's items. On behalf of Commissioner Harden, I'd like to request board approval of a letter of support
So
to
moved.
the U.S. Forest
Second.
Service.
But go ahead and tell people what it's about.
U.S. Forest Service regarding needed improvements to FH 13 in Smith Creek. That is from Highway 375 extending over to the Liberty County line.
Paige,
Don't tell Richard I said this,
Paige,
but
can
ever
you
since
put
he
the
started
photos
dating
up
my
there of
cousin.
the road condition?
Hold on.
Don't tell anybody.
Attachment 2, tab 14, attachment 2.
He's doing this because he's
Oh, I never got that.
It's very bad.
Yes, it's very bad.
I'm old enough to remember when that was dirt road. I remember when it was paved, and I don't think anything's been done with it since then, and that was in the 70s.
That's right.
At least you can cross the bridges now.
Okay.
I fished there many times.
They're good fishing on the bridge. What do you catch?
All right. Any other discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0.
Next item, 14B, request approval of a letter of support for the Wakulla County School Board in pursuing a Department of Historical grant and authorization for the chairman to sign the letter. This is for the continuing of the historical grant for the city of
So
for the
moved.
Sopchoppy
Second.
High School, Old Sopchoppy High School.
Is this a grant that the Historical Society could possibly use on their, not to boot this project up, but on their Heritage Park?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know what where this is the school system
It says
pursuing
it's
this.
governmental and non-governmental
Yeah.
organizations
So
for historical preservation.
I'm sure it's something they've looked at.
I think Richard's also a member of the historical.
I just want to make sure they had, if they're eligible for it, they had looked at it.
Right.
Yep.
Any other discussion? No citizens, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0.
We've already done Dr. Kessler's item, I think.
Yep.
Very good. That leaves mine. Put a couple of attachments with it. Hopefully it made sense. Let me just outline the problem. Thank you. We have a property owner who has purchased this parcel. Prior to purchasing it, they attempted to make every effort to make sure that they could build a home, single-family home. They were under the impression that everything was fine, did title insurance, closed it properly. Through no fault of the property owner, now that they've applied to build a home on it, they've learned that this property was illegally subdivided from a larger parent tract years back. My problem is the fact that our county, one department or another, has had their hands in this process. A deed has been recorded to the property. The property appraiser has signed a parcel ID number on it. We're taxing it as a 20-acre parcel. The person that's going to be wanting to build there and paying taxes on it did everything they could to thought they were following the rules and the process, but now they find out that that's not the case. So they're being asked to do a subdivision of the entire 69-acre parent parcel, and they only own one of these 3 lots. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at the agenda item. There's just a lot of confusion here on what defines a subdivision in our local code as well as in state statute. In my mind, a subdivision is a neighborhood, something that has shared features. In this case, there's 3 parcels. All 3 parcels meet the zoning, meet the land use. They're 20 acres plus. All 3 parcels have public access to the road. These parcels have no need to be tied to each other as a subdivision like Songbird would be tied together. There's no common roads, no retention ponds, drainage, none of that stuff. And so what I'm requesting here is a waiver of our process to allow this gentleman to build his house and go through that process.
Can we legally do that?
Under state law, any breaking up of land into 3 or more pieces requires it to go through the platting process. I don't know of any way to waive the state law. This is not a new issue. We have this issue numerous times before. I completely understand where Commissioner Thomas is coming from.
Me too.
It's an issue across the state because property owners break up pieces of property by meets and bounds descriptions quite often. When they bring those deeds to be recorded, the clerk has to accept them as long as they meet the requirements of the recording statute. And then when they go to the property appraiser has to assign a property ID and tax them. So there is a disconnect. I'd submit that disconnect is in state law and would require some modifications there to have an ultimate solution. I think one solution you do have available to you, there in section 728 of the code, there are provisions for enforcing. It says no person shall subdivide any land before such subdivision is approved as provided in this chapter, which is your platting chapter. If somebody does that, they've violated this. What it calls for is a misdemeanor, and it's a new violation each day that's not corrected. So what we could do, in addition to, we've already told the owners of the other 2 parcels that these properties will not be able to get permitted. That did not appear to sway them. We could step it up and go and enforce it as a misdemeanor.
Against the people that sold the gentleman
The original
property.
subdivision.
So
That's
what do
correct.
we do in the meantime for this?
Can't do anything.
Well, what I think we do in the meantime is obey state law. We don't take it upon ourselves to break state law, and I think that we have an obligation to step up, ratchet this thing up.
And he's right. This is a problem. This is not a county problem. This is a state problem. I wish there was. I'm like you, but at the end of the day, we can't break state law. So that we're going to be pursuing. Tomorrow, Louis we're getting with our attorneys and we're sending the letter stating the misdemeanor portion of this.
Let me ask you. I have a Wakulla County code that I was given, 727 variants. Does that mean anything? It says, in strict compliance with the provisions of this chapter, if strict compliance of the provision of this chapter causes undue hardship concerning a subdivision regulated hereunder, the Planning Commission may recommend and the county may approve modification of these requirements. So,
That doesn't mean you don't.
pardon?
That wouldn't mean you don't plat at all. It means you may have some flexibility in what has to be done to plat it.
Good analogy to me is when we get asked to waive building permit fees. It's a great idea for like a church or whatever. We just can't do it by law.
Right.
You cannot waive a building permit fee, and we cannot waive the requirement that this thing follow Chapter 177.
Well, let's talk about that a bit. If we have a piece of land and someone is going to carve out 5 acres for their child, would that require a plat?
We have a process for that. Recently, that's allowed under state statutes that exempts it from the subdivision process.
Right. It would require a deed, would require a legal description, a separate parcel ID number. This is where, I certainly don't want to break state statute, but this is where it's ambiguous to me, and the victim here is the person that didn't cause the problem.
Yes, I agree.
We're trying to comply with Chapter 177. Chapter 177 defines. So the question in my mind is this a division that just requires a deed and a legal description, just like we would with a parcel we're given a family member? Chapter 177 also defines subdivision, means the division of land into 3 or more lots, parcels, tracts, tiers, blocks, sites, units, or any other division of land, and, to me that's a big word, and includes establishment of new streets and alleys, additions, and re-subdivision. I'm certainly not an attorney, but I think the intent there is when we need streets, alleys, when we need common areas to make a subdivision accessible, just like we would in Songbird, then we would rise to the definition of subdivision, and then we would require a plat. I don't think we rise to that. I don't
Well,
think, this land is all independent.
I don't agree with you, and let me explain why. Because I think the intent was not exactly as you're saying it. If the intent is like you're saying it, I could go on Crawford Highway and make 50 by 100 lots off from here to block some cutoff, and it'd not be considered a subdivision because I'm not building any streets. I don't think that's the intent of it. I think it was just included in there that if there is infrastructure, but I think it's quite clear that if it's 3 or more, you know, so in other words, if you do 2, I always thought ours said more than 3, but I guess it's 3 or more.
State law is 3.
But
Okay, 3 or more.
I go back to this variance, you know, it's sort of subjective. The variance says, if strict compliance with the provisions of this chapter causes undue hardship concerning subdivision regulated hereunder, I guess that concerning a subdivision, that's one that's already there.
You can't supersede state law.
Yeah, you can't, there's no variance.
It'd be like us going out and changing the speed limit on Crawford Highway to
Well,
70 miles an hour.
I appreciate the attempt to use local control on this situation, and I agree.
Having said
Chairman-
that, trying to
Chairman,
grant a
but
You're gonna
variance.
defer to state control. I
No,
don't
but
think.
I'm going to also say that I agree with Commissioner Thomas. He is not an attorney, and that's why we have a county attorney. And the county attorney has spoken, and the state law, I think, is very clear.
In the spirit of what Dr. Kessler just said, trying to grant this variance would be like trying to grant a variance inside the 35-foot buffer zone.
I'll
You
tell
just
you.
can't even do it.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Tomorrow, I'm going to call Representative Halsey and Representative Munford
There you go.
and see if they will not introduce a bill into the legislature that will clear this up. Because this is probably the 3rd time that we've done this. This isn't the first
happened
time
a lot
we've
more
been to
than
this
3
party.
times.
And from doing business real estates
But-
in other states, Florida is the only state that I know of that allows this to happen, and other states got out of it because of what's being allowed right now by doing this.
Well, this could happen
It needs to change.
next week and the next and the next. It doesn't stop here, it just
Right.
keeps on
We've got
coming
this
back
problem.
at
This
us.
is a severe problem
Well,
everywhere in
You
the
could
state.
have owned a piece of property for 6, 7, 8, 10 years. It's somebody you bought, somebody deeded to you. You go pull a building permit, and they say, "Hey, you can't build on this. This was legal divided." It happens all the time, right? Where's our planning?
Well,
board?
I'm going to see our legislators tomorrow.
That's where this gets solved.
And
But
see,
if
because
you'll-
it makes no sense that we can't stop
Yeah,
it.
and we're going to be taking steps, though. We're taking steps to try to get this platted for you. Can't guarantee anything, but we're going to pursue that.
And I have not heard a motion on this. Will there be one?
No.
Okay. Motion dies.
County Attorney.
Next, County Attorney.
This item is to request board direction regarding Alachua County versus Zedek. This is the 2012 Medicaid legislation that you were a part of a large consortium, pretty much statewide, of counties that challenged it as being an unfunded mandate. FAC is looking for direction from each participating county as to whether you want to continue in the litigation. Their recommendation is to dismiss it.
Motion to approve dismissal.
Second. Any citizens? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. County Administrator? I'm sorry, any other items? County Administrator?
As just speak on one item, we did not have the reef program, the reef workshop today. I think one of the things we need to consider that staff is going to be bringing to you, and we need to consider as a county, is currently within the the Restore Act in pots 2 and 3, there are a plethora of reef projects, oyster projects, etc. It is staff's opinion, and we'll be bringing this to you, that we should really, at this point in time, with how everything is proceeding, we are currently in the majority of those, mentioned in the majority of those artificial reefs as it pertains to the Big Bend area. And our opinion is that we need to, at this point in time, pull back, work the consortium, work the state, work the state's 2 and 3 pot to try to get work done for our artificial reefs that way. We don't have the funds currently to to perform the task that's necessary to proceed anyway if we had it. So therefore, we're suggesting, and we'll be bringing it to you, that we wait and just pull back, keep our powder dry, let this play itself out. Where it plays out, keep our interest and keep our name in the pots, and then at that point in time, once that plays out, we may get all of our reefs, we may get the money, the funds for the funding, and also our survey of our bottom done as well as the permitting done, and then we can fund the artificial reefs. But we need to wait and see where those things come out, then we can move. And this will be something that'll play out over the next 6 months as to how the picture's going to clear up on that, as you know.
Translate a little bit for David. There's a certain amount of BP money is going to be given to just Wakulla County. I think we should use that money on projects inland or directly on the coast of Wakulla County. The reef projects that can be shared with other counties are better suited to be applied with consortium dollars, where it's a group of counties, it's a regional project. If we spend all our county money that could be otherwise used for sewer in Wakulla Gardens to build an artificial reef 20 miles offshore that everybody's going to benefit from, we could not use the money that went to that reef to build sewer in Wakulla Gardens. So I think that's what he's saying, is the money that's dedicated to just us, we should use for just us. And the other projects we apply for with other counties is regional projects. The oyster relays, the reefs, all that stuff.
With all due respect, I disagree with you. Basically, I do agree that basically we should let the consortium projects evaluate our depths, do the survey of our depths. That is something that has to be done before any pyramids can be put out there. But we have a $10 million grant now for our sewer, to expand our sewer system and to move it up.
That was just an example.
Well, but I think the point is Commissioner Moore, is let's use the other money and let's keep our money dry.
Yeah, but I don't want to give up. I don't want to.
We won't give up anything, but let's use that other funds first.
I can agree. I can agree with that, but I just want to make sure that when we receive some Wakulla County money, that a percentage of that goes for oysters.
It may not. Well, the point is, it may not have to be. More than likely, we're going to be consumed in on a regional deal, so we can use our money for things that we need. Those needs are going to be taken care of more than likely.
We may get everything you're asking for.
That's right. Yeah, I think you're going to get your cake and eat it too.
Then basically, if we get 100 reefs, I'll be okay.
I don't know if there's bottom enough for 100 reefs.
I don't care how we get them, but I'd like to have 200. But
anyway,
if we get 100,
that's all I got, Chairman.
Thank you, sir. All right, discussion items by commissioners.
Got citizens to be heard.
Oh,
Citizens
sorry.
to be heard.
And I do have them right here. Let's start with Jay Herring. Yes, sir.
I'm Jay Herring. I live at 45 Grace Circle. There's a lot of things going on about the wetlands that just kind of annoy me. I can't speak to two commissioners up there, but Mr. Thomas and Mr. Mayor, we have been here for a very long time. My grandfather, his grandfather was born in Wakulla County on both sides. And Dr. Kessler, your group's going around saying that you can decrease our insurance value. I'm an insurance guy, so I would like to know how you're going to do that, considering that the county actually doesn't regulate that much of insurance. It's actually done on the state level. Two, I'd like to know how the heck you're going to actually grow economically when you're going to add more regulation. I've got 4 businesses I'd like to think about moving to Wakulla County. One of them's actually owned by my best friend's mother-in-law, and he was actually considering coming down taking a look at Wakulla County because his goddaughters would like to be close to me. But he told me, he said that he's not even going to consider it if the wetland ordinance is passed. He said, so we'll wait till after November. I just don't get it. I just don't understand how on one hand you want to tell everybody we can decrease this and we can raise economics, but on the other hand you want to increase regulations. Now maybe I'm just a dumb old boot-wearing country boy that went to most of my education in Wakulla County. Daddy was a school teacher down here for 30 years. His daddy was a preacher. But last time I checked, regulations normally ends up costing us a whole lot more money than it's worth. And your site says there's not going to be any lawsuits. Somebody sued McDonald's because the top came off of a coffee cup, and you're going to tell me that somebody that's got millions of dollars invested in land is not going to sue to be able to get their money back? You know, people like you? I just don't understand how you can make those claims. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. People are going to lose money, and they're not going to sue when people sue over everything nowadays. And does the count, you know, I own a business. I should be who you would want to move back home because I came home around 3 years ago. I own a fairly successful business. I employ over 25 people now. I'm hiring over 20 people as we speak. I'm expanded into 3 states. I want to make a home office somewhere, but I need to be able to, I need to know where I can do it at. I want to be in Wakulla County, but if I can't build in Wakulla County, I'll go to Leon. They'll take me in a heartbeat. But I just don't understand it. You know? And I'd like you to explain it to the people.
Not at this time, sir. We can't do a back and forth dialogue.
No, understandable.
He can use his discussion time to answer it if that's his choice.
Fair enough. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Mr. Hugh Taylor.
Hugh Taylor, 1357 Martin Luther King Road. You believe in ghosts? Is that the deal?
I guess so.
Folks may not know this, you guys may not know this, but I do have the only unicorn skull in the world that we dug up on our property in Fantasyland. And I'll answer for Dr. Kessler. All you hear here is fishing. All you hear here is water. All you see in other places, in Indian River Lagoon, is toxic water. The people that are going to come here are coming here for the water. Every plan that I've heard tonight, every plan that I've heard over the past months has been predicated upon water. And I didn't even want to talk about water. But I'll talk about McDonald's coffee all day long because of the emails that were floating back and forth saying the coffee, the hotter the coffee, the less people will know it tastes bad. That's what got McDonald's. They intentionally made the water too hot. And you may be a dumb boot wearing Wakulla, but here it's water. Here it's local control. And that's not what I want to talk about. Something that's been ignored to date. It's been flying under the radar, but somebody's got to talk about it. I guess it's me. I wanted to bring some things to light, although it pains me to do so for reasons of confusion. It's the charter, all these charter amendments. To me, the only legitimate charter amendment on the charter is Charter Amendment A. What happened? You have a charter commission that was premature, composed mostly of people who were against the charter to begin with. I think most of their proposed charter amendments reflected that. Anti-citizen. 2 families controlled. Man, you talk about oligarchy. I guess he left. 2 families controlled 13% of the vote on that commission. It discussed raising the threshold. It discussed raising the strike point to 60% of the people. And it's my belief, I'm thinking, that one of the amendments here, the nonpartisan, which I've been criticized, I was in favor of it at one time until I started thinking about it. The nonpartisan election, I do believe, it is my belief that that's in there so one person can run for office that happens to be a federal employee who cannot run in a partisan election. I think we've done very well with unfunded local candidates with no dog in the hunt running NPA with parties. You know, and think about term limits. The comparable analogy is term limits. Are term limits good or bad? Who runs our government when there are term limits? Staff and lobbyists. Who runs our government when we have non-partisan elections? Money. Flood the field. Two of their guys get in there. It's happened before here. Will happen again. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Banks? All right, thank you. George Waldman?
Left.
Gone. Bob Daniels. Chuck Hess, saved you for last.
Oh, excellent.
Because you're my friend.
I doubt that, but okay, wetlands. I haven't talked about them in a while. Basically, 20 years ago, 1994, the county came up with a new comprehensive plan. In that comprehensive plan, our forward-thinking members of the county commission included 75-foot buffers around our wetlands. We lived with 75-foot buffers around our wetlands until just recently. We went through the largest growth the county has ever experienced with 75-foot buffers around our wetlands. So a lot of the arguments that people are making about the 75-foot buffers affecting development and reducing growth in the county are nonsensical. Now, when you really look at it and you look at what's happened across the state, protection by the DEP, or as they're affectionately called within the agency, don't expect protection, it has failed miserably. Mr. Taylor just mentioned Alligator,
Springs.
not Alligator, Indian River Lagoon. Indian River Lagoon was one of the best fisheries in Florida. It has collapsed. It no longer supports the fishing that it used to. They've lost 60% of their seagrass beds, so the long-term prognosis of that fishery is dire, to say the least. Is that what we want in Wakulla County? Do we want to have our waters protected by DEP and allow that kind of damage to our seagrass beds, to our waters? Everything I can think of in Wakulla County depends on the quality of the water in Wakulla County. We should try to do everything we can to keep our local control to make sure our waters stay as clean as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That is our last citizen. Now we'll move to discussion item by commissioners. Mr. Kessler, would you like to kick us off?
No, I'd like to have Commissioner Harden's item first.
That's a discussion item, and he's not here to discuss it, so.
Oh, I thought it was going to be presented.
I didn't know what.
Oh, the Veterans Parks designation, yes, I'm sorry.
You have something in writing?
No.
You have some information on that?
I don't have any information. He just wanted me to mention that he would like to be able to pursue, he's had numerous requests from veterans groups to have a memorial area, park. We've suggested the possibility of the area of, not Azalea Park, but
Hudson?
Hudson Park, where there's already an existing memorial there. It's possibly a little memorial park within the park. So he just wanted to make sure that there was no objections to moving forward. He'll be bringing something forward on that.
Maybe something similar
Something
to
to
like
look at.
shop he
but
has.
That's right.
Like
That's
Dr.
right.
Kessler said many times, the devil's in the details.
That's right.
Sure.
That's right.
Sure, he'll bring that back for consideration.
That's right. He'll bring that back for consideration.
All right.
Okay. Okay.
Dr. Kessler.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr. Kessler, for
You're welcome.
reminding me.
So, so I hear things on the wetlands, and yes, I am a supporter of voting yes on amendment or referendum A, and I hear different reasons by the group that's anti-referendum A. And I hear one of the things is that the vote is just undemocratic to require a unanimous vote. It's impossible to get a unanimous vote. It would be so difficult to get a unanimous vote. Wetlands Ordinance 2006, Board of County Commissioners 5-0, unanimous. Wetlands Ordinance 2010, Board of County Commissioners 5-0. Didn't seem too hard then. You know, there's no democracy better than what's happening now. The ballot initiative, pure democracy. November 4th, pure democracy. Let the people speak. As far as lawsuits, on the wetlands ordinance that was eliminated, there were never any lawsuits. The years that it was in place, never a lawsuit. In costing more money, it's difficult to understand, but someone brought up 7% that I wanted to reduce the public service utility tax down to 6%, and that I was against it going to 5%, when Mr. Moore wanted to go to 5%. I wasn't against it going to 5%. All I wanted Mr. Moore is to show how he was going to balance the budget by reducing it to 5%. I showed how I was going to reduce it to 6% and where that money was coming from. So it's not that I was against going down to 5%. But I don't believe that, and I don't think it can be shown, that having the wetlands ordinance, we had a wetlands ordinance 2010, that it cost this county any more money to have that wetlands ordinance. It's just not true. And I guess when you don't have a good argument, to oppose this, you get to maybe personal attacks and try to confuse the issue, and that's sad. The signs that are going up now, vote against, vote no on A, protect wetlands. How is that possible? How do you protect wetlands by voting against local control? South Florida developers are funding the anti-wetlands. These same South Florida developers have sued the county before. I don't look at them as being very friendly to Wakulla County. I look at them as looking at their bottom line, or what their self-interests are. But the money that came into the Wakulla Wetlands Alliance, look at it. It's public record. Look at what came in to the property rights, and look what came in to Wakulla Wetlands Alliance. Look where that money came from. Look where it came from. From the smallest of the donations to the largest of the donations. Local, regional people. So, I think it's always good to discuss the issues and to be truthful about them. There can be differences of opinion. They don't have to be personal. We can agree to disagree. But there's a lot being said right now, and especially these South Florida developers do not want Wakulla County to have local control.
Howard, I know there's been, if I could, there's been several 5-0 votes. I've mentioned it at the board meeting before, other than the wetlands item that night, everything was a 5-0 vote. It's just my personal opinion, and I don't want to argue about this to death, but requiring a 5-0 vote is what I just can't swallow. And I get, we'll agree to disagree on it.
Yeah.
I just don't agree.
And that 5-0 vote in there was really to give status to the board rather than to ignore the board. Okay, it could have been come forward without that. Okay, but it didn't because they wanted to give some deference to the board. But okay, that's the wetlands issue for me.
If I could, one more point, if I
Sure.
could, since this is discussion item.
Sure.
If one were to apply the same logic to, let's say the wetlands referendum fails, okay, let's just hypothetically.
Yep.
And then the board come up with an ordinance that says there can never be another wetland regulation in this county, period, without a 5-0 vote. And it only took 3 votes out of the 5 to pass that. But now you got to have a unanimous vote to ever have another wetland regulation in the county. Nobody on the wetland side, I think, would agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know that you can pass.
Just hypothetically.
Well, that's a hypothetical that may not exist. So I don't think you can pass a 3-2 vote to require a future
let's say
election
there's a
to be
referendum
unanimous.
then. You understand what I'm saying. Let's
Well,
say there was a citizens referendum that
whatever
passed.
that's democracy. Whatever the citizens want, that's democracy. When they speak, that's the strongest voice that we have.
But my point is, Howard, is that let's say that there was a citizens initiative to have a referendum on the ballot that says there can never be another wetlands ordinance without a 5-0 vote of the board. That referendum passes with 50% plus 1 vote. Then it becomes 100% to change it. That's what I don't find is not in the spirit that...
By the board, but with our charter, it can be changed any time by the citizens after the 2 years. So any time, that's what makes our charter so powerful. You know, people said, well, why did you fight for the charter? Because I guess I was out there at the lead of the charter thing. And it wasn't because of that specific issue of giving the people the right, although I recognize that. It dealt with a totally different issue that the county was being written off on. And I wanted the county at the table, and that was the CRAs. Okay? So I agreed to some aspects of the charter that in my opinion, are not very good. Having a 30% threshold to require that kind of threshold to get something from the citizens on the ballot is shameful in the state of Florida. Okay? We look very bad with that statistic out there. But the citizens with this charter have the opportunity of controlling their own destiny. They can vote to not have the wetlands ordinance. They can vote for the wetlands. But that's the strongest form of democracy that I know, and the citizens can get out there.
And I was just trying to, I think I have certainly been civil about the discussion about the wetlands, but I was just trying to point out why I personally, and you personally know my position on it.
No.
I don't dislike you because we don't agree on it, but I just don't agree with you on that, especially on the 5-0 vote thing.
I will say that, unfortunately, you've been the only one that's kept personalities out of it. And I thank you for that. Okay? So on a totally different matter. Okay? So I was we spoke about the park with Hudson Park. I was there just this past weekend. Very nice party going on. And happened to run, when I poke around there, I left the party and I spoke to people that were walking and using the park with their little kids and stuff. And tennis courts were being used, the pavilion was being used, and several of the parents asked me why we didn't have at least toddler swings there. And I looked around and it looked like there could be room for that. So I just throw that out there. It seems to be something that the citizens would use. They're using the park. It's really a joyful experience.
It's come a long ways over the last few years.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, very, very nice. So I just ask the board to consider that, and maybe the administrator to look at that. 2 or 3 little toddler swings, you know, but of good quality so that they last, just like that playground that's there that they're using right now for the little toddlers with the slides and stuff. It's really great. So if we can consider that, maybe you can get us some pricing on that, see what that would be, because I know that. Okay, great. That's
Toddler
it for me.
swings and doggy park. The dog park.
Well, the dog park is being looked into now, and we're going to be looking at whatever parcels we have, right? So, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. First, I would like to thank Lynn Arts for obtaining the grant, Steve Cushman, and the volunteers that keep Wakulla County beautiful for the landscaping project that you did at the county commission. I think Ms. Jones was involved in that, and I know I certainly don't know everyone that was there, but please pass on to them. You guys did a great job. We appreciate it, and did it at no taxpayers'
Lots of
expense.
sweat.
Yeah, it's a great job.
In the rain, too.
So thank you very much for that. Also, it is swine show time again. If anyone is interested in entering a pig in the swine show, even if you do not have the ability to house it, that may be able to be worked out. Some folks are willing to help you with that. There's also going to be a barbecue cook-off this year that it's going to be a little bit different than previous years. The show is going to provide the meat. They're going to, everyone is going to have an entrance fee, and then they're going to split the money. So the grand winner will take a large check home this year, depending on how many participants show up. Contact PJ Pilen for more information, 509-3263, and if you're not participating, definitely come out and enjoy the show and enjoy the food. Would like to follow up on a couple of your comments. The 5-0 vote is not a problem if we can get the 5-0 vote. That's a beautiful thing if we agree. The problem is, let's change the focus, is not the 5-0 vote, it's the fact that one commissioner now has the ability to derail the entire process. The President of the United States can veto Congress. Congress can overrule the President with 2/3 vote. Same thing with the governor. No senator, no legislator has the ability to veto the board or the body that they sit on. I'm not aware of any other county that has that statute. Heather, if you're aware of any statute in the state of Florida, local.
I'm aware of at least one off the top of my head that requires a unanimous vote, and that is if you were going to increase your millage.
It's not a county-specific issue, though.
Yes, it is.
That's a state issue if you're going to increase your millage rate.
Well, I thought you said if you're aware of anything.
Well,
What he was saying is
definitely share it, but I'm thinking more of a local issue. I mean, we're required to do that, but
well, there's a state statute that a unanimous vote is required if you're going to increase your millage more than 10% above the rollback rate.
That's a state statute.
the citizens just need to realize that any one of the 5 of us could be the holdout. This is not about Dr. Kessler. I could be the one vote in a 4-1 vote when something needs to be changed. Under the right circumstances, it could be any of us, or it could be someone in the future. It's just a bad way to do things. I think you'd have had a better chance to just readopt the ordinance like it was and not put in this caveat that gives one person power over a board that's supposed to be based on a majority vote. A few minutes ago, you gave me some very good advice, and you told me to follow our attorney's advice and listen to what she said. And so I'm going to bring that back to you. At our last meeting, we talked about the fact that this also will have a 2-year lockout period if referendum A passes, that we will not have the ability, even with a 5-0 vote, even if we all agree, we will physically not be able to change that ordinance for 2 full years. And our county attorney agreed and told us that last time. So I hope you'll take the same advice you gave me, and let's follow her advice on that. Next, you mentioned these South Florida developers. They're also Wakulla County landowners, and so they have an interest here, and they pay taxes here just like everyone else. You mentioned that they sued the county. You didn't mention that they actually received some money as a result of that. They did not lose that lawsuit. That was settled, and it cost taxpayers money. because they were forced to sue. So, you know, the last thing we want is them or even a private owner that has a Wakulla Gardens lot to have the ability to come and sue us and prevail. Donations. Sounds good to just say South Florida developers are funding the other side, but I think if people look at it, a third of the contributions that have come, a third of the contributors to the Wakulla Wetlands Alliance, they're from out of this county as well. They're not Wakulla County folks, and so that happens everywhere. That happens in every race. You probably got donations from out of town, and me and everyone else. So I don't think we need to make that a big deal. We need to tell the whole truth.
Are you moving on to a different item?
I'm finished.
Okay, so let me,
Have at me.
since this is discussion, that's great.
Let me throw in,
Sure.
I know Sandy Cook was one of the ones that helped with the landscaping, and I know Steve's wife also was out there, right? You said you couldn't remember some names.
And
Cherie.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. So again, you know, with the 5-0 vote and the one commissioner that can hold up things, you still have the charter and you still have the people being able to bring this before the people and have them vote on it. And it's not one commissioner. As far as lawsuits, and that they did get money out of it, yes, they did. And you know, some of those things that were sued upon, in my opinion, were what I would call slap suits. I know in my case it was. I had a public document. I had a request for that public document. I sent it on as a public document without comment, without saying, well, look at what these people did, or look. I just sent down the same document that I had received. And they were suing me for defamation of character. That's a slap suit, okay? And as far as them getting money out of it, it became out of our hands once the insurance attorneys, they just treated it as a business. They didn't care right or wrong. They cared, what is it going to cost us in court? What is it going to cost us here? And they made a business decision. So people can sue. They can be wrong. They can get money. They can sue. They can be right, and they can get money. They can sue. They can be right, and they cannot get money. Depends how it goes. But I think some of those things that they sued upon were pretty obnoxious.
And it did cost Wakulla taxpayers $45,000 before the trust took it over and before the trust settled. So
absolutely, and there were
there
were mistakes that were made by the county that resulted in that.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Basically, I just got a couple of things to say. I came to Wakulla because of how pretty it was, how pretty the rivers were, how good the fishing was. And I would like to compliment the people of Wakulla for providing an area so beautiful. The old people of Wakulla. It seems like that everybody is bashing how Wakulla looks or whatever, but we are all here today because of how well that the people who were here before us took care of the county. It's just, they did such a great job of protecting the wetlands, protecting the county, and I'm here today because of that. I would expect that Wakulla waters are probably the cleanest that they have been in a century. I would say that our waters are the cleanest they've been in a century.
How can you make that statement?
Granted, we may have some nitrogen in our water. It doesn't come from Wakulla. 0.6% of the nitrogen that comes into Wakulla Springs comes from Leon County. So basically, it's just.
I think you meant that other way around.
0.6% of the nitrogen that's in our springs comes from Wakulla. Only 0.6%.
Said Leon.
That's correct. But I'm not going to have the new people in town bash the people who took care of this county before we came here. For us to say, and I'm new, for us to say that the people before me did something irreparable to the county is just nonsense. And to say that they may not be environmentalists, they care more about the environment as a total than all of the problems that we're having brought up here now. And if you think, we had the best way to describe what has been done on footage and so forth, it is nothing more than a Wakulla County buffer that was placed upon a state of Florida buffer. And it was probably 35 feet or whatever. It would come to 75 feet. And if 25 feet is good, does that mean that 75 feet is twice as good? No, there's no science in that when you double one boundary that it gets twice as good as the other. But I'm just not going to sit here and listen to people bash Wakulla County that have just come into the county, and I just don't want to do that, because I'm really happy to know the people of Wakulla. They're the salt of the earth, and they took care of this county before I got here, and I thank them for it.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to
Yes, sir.
comment on those comments. First of all, to make statements without any kind of basis in fact is bizarre. There's a thing called setting up a straw man argument, where you basically make an argument against something that was never said.
You
So,
know-
excuse me.
you know
one
well-
second,
you
excuse
know
me,
well how
excuse
to
me,
do
I
that,
am-
Dr.
I am
Kessler.
speaking right now, okay? And no one was attacking, no one...
You are a master at that.
Let him finish.
Thank you for being so polite. No one was speaking about how badly the citizens who are natives of Wakulla County took care of their county. That was not part of this discussion. And you now made it up and brought it forward and said how much you love the people of Wakulla and that you wouldn't degrade them the way the impression was others that are new to the county would. People that are new to the county also moved here because of the beauty of Wakulla County. They want it to stay. To say that our waters are better now than they were in the past is an absolute misstatement. To what we're saying, and especially what we're saying with the wetlands, is that the state has failed miserably throughout the entire state of Florida to protect our beautiful natural resources. And if we in Wakulla don't want that to happen here, we have to do something about it. We have to take local control. And that's what we had done in the past. And that's what the citizens will decide if they want to do in the future. Do they want local control, or do they want to leave it to a state that you can look up picture after picture of then and now and see how miserably the state of Florida has not protected, see how they've not protected our wetlands. And
Maybe we could take the pictures that Mr. Thomas put on the Facebook, showing the people who have disturbed and filled in the wetlands and who live on the coast and who have damaged our property.
Well, and you know, some of those pictures that are up there, and as far as damaging the wetlands, I can speak for myself, if that's where you're going. Nothing I ever did was in violation of the wetlands ordinance. Nothing, okay? The wetlands ordinance, if you would read it, sir, okay, says if you buy a piece of property with a wetland on it that has been altered, if you buy a pond, and that pond has been altered, it changed it from native pond to unnative pond, bermed pond. I bought a piece of property that people have lived in for over 25 years, okay? They bermed the pond, they changed it, they took it out of the wetlands ordinance. It does not apply, okay? And if other people came into the county, all of those people that bought homes on the water, a lot of them bought homes that were already built, all of Shell Point with the canals that are there. They didn't do that. That was there. They didn't degrade the environment. That was there. So I can only speak for myself. I've never done anything that was outside of the regulations of the wetlands ordinance on my property.
My turn?
Basically, yeah, it'll be your time. Basically speaking, the wetlands, we're not talking about on the coast. Everybody thinks that we're talking about properties on the coast. We're talking about the properties inside the coast that that where you live on an acre, you live on 2 acres, you live on 5 acres, and we have a rain, and that rain sits there for a couple of days. It will be, if this thing passes, it will be our county people will have to go out and make a...
That is so false. That is so much... That is not even close to being close to a
Who will make the
misstatement.
determination? Who will make that determination if it isn't the county folks?
If you would read the papers...
No, but who will make the determination if it's not the county people?
If the county people can certainly make the determination...
So they will be
on-
making the
On a
determination.
2-day rain, yes, the county people will make that determination.
So they will
There is-
make all the determinations on the wetland.
We had things in the wetlands ordinance that... Read the wetlands ordinance. We have things in there that provide for how that is done.
Yeah, but it's the county people that's going to have to do it. We're going to have to hire extra staff to police the
We
people.
did not have to, we had the wetlands ordinance in place for years
That won't
and
be
did
the
not
case going
have-
forward, though.
And why not? It's the same ordinance.
No, it won't be the same ordinance.
It is the same
We
ordinance.
don't have it now. When you instill it back on the people of Wakulla County, then the county is going to have to staff up to police it. We're going to
Okay.
become a police state.
Can I speak for a little bit? No, I just want to say the science is out there. When you make statements about 35 feet and 75 feet, there is science out there that shows you the benefit of the increased buffers. Now, you can argue about what makes practicality in your county, but that the science is not there, that's not true. That the water is purer now than it was before, that's not true. Okay? If you go back, there was a time, I don't know if you were a scout or any of it over here was scouts, or you didn't have to be, but I remember as a kid, you could go out and put your hands in the water and drink it, okay? And it was good water to drink. The water coming out of rocks and water coming out of the side of a hill and water coming down the river. You'd have to do a lot of care and thinking before you did that today. So, and I don't advise it.
You done? All right, I got just 10 brief items. Randy, is this a new person?
She may not want to.
Now you see how boring this is.
Are you
Next
sure?
time, bring.
You sure you want to do this?
I was hoping she wouldn't run.
Bring some coffee with you next time. A lot easier to stay awake.
She won't have any trouble staying awake.
I was talking to Sharif. We have our Crawfordville town plan. We've approved future land use designations, but we haven't approved any zoning regulations to take advantage of that future land use regulation. And when I was telling Sharif, we're talking about BP stuff, what we could use some money for, and when I was telling her about that, she said there was a grant that just came through that we could have applied for that would have been perfect for. So I just want to encourage us to keep that on the radar. If we can get grant money to have a consultant come up with these zoning designations to take advantage of the future land use categories we've already put in place. And these are things that would allow, for example, Winn-Dixie to develop a corner of their parking lot without having to subdivide the property all up, and I think it'd be a great improvement. In other words, if you know anything about the Kmart on North Monroe or the Kmart on Appalachia Parkway, the transformation those have made over the years, just by simply putting in bike racks, you can get by with 20% less parking spaces. So there's some real incentives there, but there's no way to take advantage of them right now because we don't have the zoning categories. So I just wanted to be sure we kept that radar, and I'm not going to say another word about wetlands.
All right, that's all right. You got 9 more to go.
Motion to adjourn.
That surprised me.
Second.
Second. Okay, cool.